Hello. I'm Alternate Jerry. Welcome to my channel. I cannot read chat and start my stream at the same time because I almost forgot to hit go live. So we are still waiting for Mr. Tucker to come on stream. I think we had a little time zone issue going on, so I expect that he will be here in the next 15 or so minutes. I think he thought he was 2 hours behind, and he's 3 hours behind. I told you I don't have a top hat. Bree. Bree, scroll up. We were just having a conversation you would have liked to have been a part of. I told you I didn't have a top hat. But look at this. All out of the face. I just got this little wild hair there. While we have a few minutes, no, I don't want a top hat. Okay, grief, you guys are so distracting. Thank you. While we are waiting, so tomorrow I think I'm going to put the Haley. Hey there, Dare. How you doing? Nice you could join us. I hope you're doing fabulous and had a great day. I think we're going to put the Haley Brown, the last 2 days of that on hold and jump into this trial that I saw that started in Texas today. I keep wanting to call him Juan. Jose Ruiz. I only watched opening statements and they were kind of crazy. I've never seen so many objections, and then the judge have to kick the jury out during opening statements, and the prosecutor sitting there trying not to laugh. So, yeah. So, but as you guys are coming in, again, I'm expecting him here in about 12 minutes because of a little time zone mix-up. But I do expect him to be here. I have confirmed with him, but instead of just sitting there and not starting, I wanted to go ahead and get going. So I'm sure most of you that are here are familiar with the case. We'll go over that when he gets here. And other than that, I guess my chat is crazy. So if you guys are chatters, join in because it's fun and we have a good time and they're very nice. I promise they will not bite you. But thank you guys all for joining tonight. I don't generally stream at night, so this is my third nighttime stream. So it's very new territory for me. I am a daytime streamer. You behave. And yes, my chat almost made me forget to hit start stream. So I don't know if you guys have seen, if you guys went to his channel, he posted his hearing from yesterday. That was quite interesting. I think the judge is good. It's 7:30 here, there. If I was on your time zone, he would be right on time. But I'm on mine. This new judge seems really good. I liked him. He seems very uh, just straightforward. Just the way he said things was like, "This is the way it's going to be. This is what's going to happen. This is the order I'm doing it in. I'm going to do this first, and then we'll do this." I'm like, I like this judge. That's up to you, Gabby. You can do that, or we can wait till he gets here. Uh, like I said, I'm expecting him to be pop in here anytime, and I'll bring him right on up. He said he wasn't sure if Lauren would join us or not. She had a meeting today, and he said that he didn't know if she would feel up to it. That said, that's completely fine. They're very, very busy people and have a lot going on. So if she's here, that'd be great. I think she's very interesting. I think she's, um, yeah, he'll be on the stream. I'm just waiting for him to come in. I had to send him a link so they can just hit the link and come on in. Yeah, because he was a judge before he stepped back down to be a lawyer down there in Monroe County. And it is hilarious. And that's even a better point. I never thought about it that way because, yeah, he got beat. Even though it was a mistrial, it was still, it was a loss. So, yeah, that's funny because was it in Miami? I think he was a judge and then went back down because not only Cullen, who they were talking about last night, all the stuff that's happening with her uh, that doesn't have anything to do with, I think, the rest of the prosecutors leaving. They all kind of made this exodus together around the same time. And uh, then this guy comes in. I don't know if he didn't win his second run at judge or not. I didn't go research him that much because I Mr. Mansfield's not my favorite. Uh, so how he got down there, I'm not sure. Maybe he saw an opening. It made me kind of laugh though. If you watch the hearing, Mr. Mansfield's like his face from here up is all you see most of the time. I'm like, put your there's all of you will fit. Most of you will fit. Adair, we are talking about Tyrone Tucker, the Florida unaliving trial that took place last January, or not last January, in this past January. He is pro se, representing himself, not a SOBSA or anything crazy like that. He actually did a really good job, and he ended up getting a mistrial. So they're getting ready to go again, and so he's coming on and here just a few minutes, and he's going to talk to us. And I assume I was going to talk to him before we came on, so we're just going to wing it. Because I figured we'll talk about the hearing from yesterday, but I know you guys have a lot of questions about the first trial, what's going on down there, all that kind of stuff, and just questions about what happened during trial, before trial, to get him there. I know I have some of those questions. Gabby said she had like a page and a half of questions, so I don't know if we will have the same questions. I heard that, and that's one of my questions that I had about, is the jury pool gonna be as good as if it was in Marathon? I don't know the layout down there where Key West is and Marathon is. It's in the same county, I think. And so I was wondering if it was far enough apart. But even there, we've heard of the trial because that's what we do. We watch trials. If we didn't watch trials and we didn't turn on any court TV or Law and Crime or YouTube or anything like that, would we have heard of this trial? Probably not. So hopefully they can find more people there that have not heard of this trial. The one thing I was and I do wanna talk to him about this and how he felt about it, is when, if I have to give Judge Sy any credit, it is the fact that he only sent the jury back once for the Alan Johnson, is it Alan Johnson? I'm reading your guys' chat. The Allen charge, uh, and not just kept sending them back and sending them back and sending them back, which I don't like. I don't even like the Allen charge because then that means somebody, no matter which side they were on, in order to not have a mistrial, has to change their mind. and and I think that's wrong. So I'm glad that whichever side they came down on, that the jurors held, they just held strong and um and stood firm on their verdicts, because then we got a mistrial. I wish we would have got a not guilty verdict, but hopefully this time we will. So he knows, they know the breakdown of how they voted. Mansfield came out, I believe, and said that there was one holdout, and that's not true. So I'll let him talk about that when he gets here, which should be hopefully any minute now. But they do know what the breakdown of the jury was as far as the guilty versus not guilty. He did well. He did quite well. Um, and I do want to ask him too about what I had heard on another channel about the state saying Travis was in the wind and that he wasn't quite prepared for this first trial because he thought they were going to go in and get a dismissal because Travis is pretty much all they have. And then obviously they state knew exactly where Travis was. And so if he wasn't prepared last trial, like fully prepared, and he did that well, if he's fully prepared this trial, I think he stands a pretty good chance unless the state comes back with something new. Yes, Bree. This is the one in Florida that represented himself and got a mistrial. It's very convenient. And just depending on when I was waiting for the verdict. Hello, Lauren. How are you? I sent the link to Ty in his email. He should have to come on, I hope. I think you both should be able to use it. I don't have an email for you, so he didn't send it yet. I don't have your email. Do you want to send? You can send me. Let me just put my email in the chat real quick because it's not out there. Email me right there, Lauren, and I'll send you a link. All right, guys, give me a second. You know I'm not good at multitasking. You guys distracted me over there. Let me get her invite. All right, there she is. All right, Lauren, link is on its way. Other than that, you guys, is my sound okay? Because I'm used to doing uh, audio, not just me. There she is. All right, Lauren. Let me do not that. Why? I'm not as good as excited utterances about making everybody all the same size. Let's do this.
I'm getting.
You're getting feedback. Perfect. Do I need to turn my mic down?
No, I had open
Oh,
on another page.
got it. How are you?
Good. How are you? Sorry,
I am good.
Ty's running an errand and just texted me. I asked him for the link, and he said, "I'll send it to you in a minute. I might be a little bit late, but
That's okay.
yeah."
We're actually, I think he thought we were 2 hours difference. We're 3 hours difference. So
Gotcha.
we're good.
All right. I'm here.
I tried to send him like a message right back going, wait, you're 2 hours behind me. I thought you were 3 hours behind me.
Okay.
So it's fine though. We've just been hanging out and talking, but I am not. I'm trying to figure out on my little people down here. So one of you's not real small when Ty gets here. I'm not as good as EU is on this stuff. In fact, I've had my daughter on, but you and Ty are my first official guest.
Aw.
No, no offense, Carmen, you are a guest. You guys are my very first official guest. So thank you so much, and I really appreciate you guys coming on and talking to me. I have questions for you. Can you see the chat?
Yes.
Okay, you answer whatever you're comfortable answering.
Okay.
Um, so I think Gabby's question is,
The background
yeah.
of me and Ty.
And that's whatever you want to tell, whatever you don't want to tell, whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, so, I met Ty when we were young teenagers. I had a boyfriend who was best friends with Ty. And so we had this close-knit little group of friends that hung out, and, Ty was very special. He was a special person even when we were younger. He was very adventurous. All the friends kinda looked up to him as the cool guy, smart and adventurous and had a lot of freedoms, didn't have real strict parents, to say the least. And I really did not spend a whole lot of time with Ty when we were younger because he had a huge crush on me, and he didn't want to do anything or be in a position where he would betray his best friend over a girl, kind of thing. And so, and it's kind of funny because how that all played out was pretty embarrassing for Ty, because he got real drunk one night, and my friends were recording him, and he was talking about how he's in love with me and all this stuff. And the friends end up playing the audio to me, and he found out about it, and I think he was mortified. And so
Oh,
we we didn't hang out a whole lot. And then I ended up moving to California, and he did his life. And we reconnected over Facebook when oddly we both lived in Arizona. I was like, "How did you end up in Arizona?" He's like, "Yeah, how'd you end up in Arizona?" And at that time, we didn't meet in person for various reasons, but we stayed in touch, and I followed his travels across the country and his adventures, and we started having a little flirtatious relationship. I had actually tried to get him to come with me to Las Vegas to some show I was going to, and we were planning on that. It's kind of got like butterflies in my stomach. We're kind of excited about that, and that didn't happen either. So fast forward to 2017, somebody on Facebook hit me up and said, "I think your friend Tyrone might need your help." I was like, "Well, what's going on?" He said, "He's been arrested for murder." I was like, "Oh my God," my stomach sunk because, well, nobody wants to hear that about anybody.
right.
And, but also I just had this really bad feeling because I know where he is in the South, in Florida and Key West it's a little bit different there. And they really, that part of the world sees itself almost not as part of the United States, that they go by their own rules. And I just, I couldn't see Ty being involved in a murder, but
Right.
honestly, I hadn't seen him in many, many, many years.
Right.
So I
And
didn't
you just don't
know.
know. Yeah.
But my gut instinct was this is a mistake. He's getting jammed up. They just, wrong place, wrong time. I didn't know, but I had a bad feeling about it. And so I wanted to get in touch with him to make sure he had what he needed, like access to an attorney and that kind of thing. So I found out where he was. I wrote him a letter, gave him my phone number, and he called me. And, or I guess he called me, and then we did a video visitation where we saw each other, for the first time in so many years. And he looked shell shocked. I mean, I think he was shocked that I was there, talking to him over video. He didn't think I would be the one coming to help him out. But I was. And then we started communicating through mail and on the phone. And, at first he didn't want me to help him because that's the other reason I really wanted to reach out to Ty, is because I know he's the kind of person who wants to do things not by himself, but he's got it. He's got this, I got it.
Right.
Personality. And when you're accused of murder, you don't got it,
Well, and you're in a place where what are you going to do? You're stuck there.
Yeah. And so I said, look, I'm just at least going to make sure you have representation. You have a public defender, because at this point he had been, at the point we were almost a month in, he still didn't have an attorney. And so I was kind of freaking out. Like, I didn't know how slow the justice system worked at that point, but
it's a snail's pace.
Yeah. I mean, and I was freaking out. I'm calling people because I'm like, I will call people. I will talk to people like, you got to do something. Like I need this now. And everybody was laughing at me. They're like, good luck with that.
Yep.
So, we just kind of started through this process, and I think he realized somewhere along the line that he probably did need my help. And, he said, the only way this is going to work is if we completely trust each other. And he said he felt like for me to trust him, he was going to be completely open about everything and allow me access to all the evidence in the case. And he didn't want me to just think he was innocent. He said, look at the evidence, look at what's out there and come to your own conclusion. And obviously I'm the kind of person who would do that anyways. I would help him. I would help him differently if I found he was, if it looked like he was guilty, obviously. Not that he doesn't deserve representation and everything like that, but it would have probably been a very different situation than what I found as soon as I started getting the discovery from the case. Even from the first police reports, it was like so obvious that something was wrong, that they had painted, it seemed to me that they had painted him kind of after the fact into the story. And I started getting the interview videos, and every interview was like about Ty. And it was so weird to me because it's like, when you interview somebody, aren't you looking for information like, hey, what happened? What were you doing? What was this person doing? But it was like, Ty's the bad guy. You're the good guy. And not just one interview, all of them.
Right.
And, down the road from there, you started getting, the forensic, the DNA results back. I mean, there's nothing that, in the first 6 months or so, there was no DNA. There was no witness that said he was there. There was, in fact, they said there's witnesses, and that was just the other thing. There was repeated interviews of witnesses where they would say, hey, I'm not going to say it was Ty because I didn't see Ty. And the cops are like, no, the camera would turn off, kind of thing. It just seems so bizarre. And so then I knew I was right, that something went wrong. And, he told me, he's like, if you're going to do this, it's going to be a long road. And I don't know that you want to get involved in this long road.
And it's stressful.
Oh yeah. But see, I'm also like, I'm thick skinned and hardy and had already been through a very traumatic legal situation with my divorce and the sale of my company, and I was, I went up against giants, and in my opinion, won. So I don't, and I'm stubborn, and so I had money and I had
Right.
time, and so I just thought, like, this, what a weird situation that I was the one that somebody came to, because this guy who came to me didn't even know I had money. He
Right.
didn't know anything about me. The only thing he knew is that I was somebody that Ty spoke very highly of. So, I mean, getting back to the original question, so that's kind of in this process. I mean, we started bonding over this horrible, horrible situation. And I think people, especially some of the first publicity we got, it was like very tabloid, like this crazy lady, is having an affair. We're trying to get married to a guy in jail. And it sounds ridiculous. But really, when you go through something so deeply with somebody, we bonded deeply. I mean, I think we had definitely attraction towards each other, and we're very similar upbringings, and all of that. And then on top of it, we're fighting this fight together, and it was just like this magic storm of Lauren and Ty, where we fell in love. And and people think that's crazy, but he and I spoke on the phone hours every day, hours and hours, like. And so it's like we really were getting to know each other, just not in the physical sense. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of the history. And then he got out on bond and came to live in Oregon, and we got married. And our relationship has had some big bumps in it, and to me, that's not that surprising, because of how horrible this experience has been for us to go through. And as bad as it has been for me, and as much as I know, and as much as I've been by Ty's side, no way that I can even put myself in his shoes, you
Right.
know? And so I have a lot of sympathy for him, and, and for myself and for our relationship. It's been very hard all the way
Right.
around.
Even the you guys are in such a stressful situation.
Constantly.
I don't care if you had the perfect relationship, the stresses it out, and nobody has a perfect relationship.
No, and the other thing that kind of happened was COVID, so here's Ty, he's on house arrest. I mean, he's at home, but he can't leave the house. And I stayed with him and stopped doing a lot of my day-to-day things when he first came home. And then COVID happened, and like nobody left the house for such
Right.
a long time. And then when COVID was, whatever the restrictions were lifted, I started going back to my own life, and he was still stuck at home. And it was just a shit show for a
Yep.
relationship.
Yeah. It's so when he gets here, I was actually hoping to speak to him beforehand, because when Ty and I first connected, it wasn't good, because when we started watching this trial, we didn't know anything about you. We didn't know anything about him. We didn't know anything about the trial. People are like, "Who is this?" I don't know. We're
Yeah.
just going. So we were like, "This is nuts." Well, first I thought he was going to be like Daryl Brooks, a
Right.
soft sit prosaic, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know if I can take this for 6 weeks of what he did to that court and to those people." And sorry, I think he emailed me. I got
Let's see.
sidetracked. Uh, okay, I think he's. I can't. Okay, he said he'll be here soon.
You guys watch the trial.
We watched the trial, and we saw, and I know better than this. And but I just was kind of like, okay, what is going on? I had never heard of it at all. I had
Hmm.
no, but I also I don't go and deep do deep research on anything, because I want to see what the jury sees.
Right.
I don't want all this outside info, and I got a little bit, and it just was like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy." what is she doing with him? Just what's happening. And the way they kind of presented, well, he was going to represent himself so he could get stuff in that his attorneys couldn't get in. Like, well, that just sounded shady at the time.
Well, and
Now,
it wasn't the whole story.
correct, because they don't give you the whole story.
Right.
And so when he very first, I think he watched like one of the very first things I did. And, he came at me and I just was like, hey, I said, first off, my apologies to you and Lauren, but your trial was a journey for all of us. We started where you saw, but we ended at not guilty. And
Well,
so you took us like, if we were really, really pulling for him to get a not guilty. Because when the DNA came back, I'm like, this is what they have. In my opinion, this is it. If they don't have anything here, they don't have anything.
right.
And there wasn't anything there.
Well, it's funny because I don't know if you saw me involved in the chats on what is it, the Law and Order Network?
Law and Crime.
Law and Crime, I'm sorry, yeah.
I kept seeing them say you were in there, and I'm like, I don't know that I believe you guys.
You might have been one of those, huh?
I don't ever chat over there.
Yeah, that's horrible. They're mean.
They're horrible. So I don't ever chat there.
That's where I started. And I kind of wanted to say I appreciate the journey that you did go through, because it was fascinating to me. And this is part of why I enjoy talking with people who went through that trial, is because I got to see people really change and like have these assumptions, which is normal. It's human nature to have assumptions. And then as the state presented or didn't present their case, like right. I could see people going, what the fuck? Excuse me, can I say that?
No, you're fine. It's like, there's what's happening. There's nothing here.
There's nothing here. And I could feel like, and about that time, I think I went over to Recovery Addict, and like the people there are much kinder, and just watching people, because I was watching it as a juror as best I could. Impossible, because right. I know too much. Right. But I was enjoying watching you guys watch it without knowing and seeing your actions, and and I think that there was a huge shift right about that point with the DNA.
Yeah, like because I was the day that his verdict came in. I was of course not in a place where I was going to be able to stream it live. So I'm watching, like waiting to see what's going to happen, and it was taking a long time. And your cat just freaked me out because I was thinking my dog was in the room with me. I just saw this head coming in. I don't know why. But so I had to watch Law and Crime or Court TV, whichever one I was going back, because I can't do it for very long. And whereas I was going, for me, if they're saying that it can't be included or excluded, then it's excluded.
Exactly. I mean, if you get the numbers, and it's like 1 billion trillion exponentially that it's possible it could be someone like Ty. I mean,
right.
That's not a thing.
Yep.
Because when your DNA is there, it's like, 2 billion to 1, it's you.
Right. Yes. But looking at that chat, they were saying the opposite of what I was saying. Well, it has to be included. And I just was like,
they tried to pull off. They tried to pull that off throughout in the investigation and throughout hearings and whatnot. That there's a possibility it was him.
But then there's a possibility it wasn't.
It was me.
I mean, it's like, so that's kind of just the way my mind works. If that's the possibility, if that's all you have, well, then I also have the possibility over here that it wasn't. So either please tell me it is, give me something that says it is, or I have to go with it's not.
Well, that's beyond a reasonable doubt, right? But unfortunately, and this is the only thing I've heard, I don't know it for sure, but one of the jurors was interviewed after, and they said that the DNA presentation was very confusing for a lot of the jurors, and it wasn't clear to them like it is for me and you.
Mm-hmm.
When it's,
I can see that.
It's Rory's DNA inside the mask, outside the mask, on the knife, Paula on the mask, on the knife, Matt on the, okay, I kind of get what happened.
Right.
I mean,
But
but
but then when you look at the knife, and he was in Rory's house where the
no,
knife
well,
he was
it wasn't Rory's house. So this is a big misconception too. Okay, imagine you live in an apartment building and you have a downstairs neighbor. It's like that. He was in a different unit of this
okay.
building.
So had he just at Rory's apartment or whatever, had he just been in there at
I mean,
Ty been in there at some point
I
to
think
where, like, if he touched like, shook Rory's hand and Rory touched the knife, I know people would be like, "That's really far-fetched," but touch DNA is a thing.
no, it is, and that is a thing. I mean, and I think Ty even said that in one of his first interviews. He's like, my DNA might, like, because they were saying there's a pair of shoes with blood on them or something that they collected from the warehouse, and Ty was like, well, that's not going to be my DNA on it. He's like, you might find stuff with my fingerprints on it, or because that happens, but
Right.
it was, yeah, and yeah,
So, because that's for me, I was like, "Well, I can't their DNA didn't get me there, and now you're done." When he when sorry, I called him Mr. Tucker the entire trial. He's just been Mr. Tucker to me, and he's only become Ty in our exchanging emails. So it's when Ty took the stand, I thought, "What are you doing?" But then I was kind of like, you might kind of have to. But then Mansfield questioned him, and there was nothing. The only thing he could come up with is, "Well, your wife has money."
oh, and I paid off Paula for her testimony.
Yeah, I'm like, Paula is dying. What is she going to do with it? It was just disgusting.
No, and he objected to them bringing that up, and during while they were leading up to bringing that up during when they were questioning Ty, and he objected. There was a sidebar, and they were not. The judge said you cannot bring that, like, that's irrelevant. But at the end, in the closing,
Mhm.
they did bring it up, and that
Yep.
was dirty.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
not okay.
absolutely.
That's not okay.
Absolutely. And that's how you kinda for me, like, that's how I know you guys don't have anything, because if you had it, you don't need to play these games. You just put out your evidence that you have, but you don't have it. So, now you're gonna just throw that in there that Paula was bought off. And for what purpose? She said this before.
No, from early on, and that's the other thing that's like, it was so frustrating because Ty didn't have his witnesses set up appropriately, so much was not, he wasn't able to get in based on
Right.
where he was being pro se, doing, Paula dying, that really hurt him. I feel, because he was trying so hard. It was literally her dying wish to testify for him, because she
And
felt
go ahead.
guilty. She felt
I
guilty,
know.
not responsible. It's horrible. Yeah.
It's
Breaks
not
my
her
heart.
responsibility.
I know,
It
but that's
was
the kind of person she was, and that's what she wanted. And, he's there in over his head beyond belief, and running around trying to make things okay for Paula. And I'm like pulling my hair out, like,
Well, and the picture that he took with her, she did look good that day, but that doesn't mean anything. There's lots of people that are at the end,
no,
and
they were going to release her, and then they couldn't. Or they did, and she had to go right back. I mean, she's been sick. She was sick for so long, and that she was still kicking. When Ty took those pictures, that was great. That
and
could
they were
happen, but
so mean about it. It made me so mad because, like, that is so disrespect and the judge even. That
well,
crosses
she
a
was supposed to
line.
be dead years ago, kind of
Yeah,
attitude.
I'm like, "What are you saying?"
Well, the thing that's horrible about that is we early on tried to get her testimony preserved, and the judge fought it. The state fought it. The prosecutor, I'm like, why are you fighting us on this? And then it was like one of our wins, which the judge hated. And I could tell he definitely did hate it when he brought it up again. Like, well, she was been dying for
Right.
years.
It's like he
Well,
looked like he'd been dying the whole trial.
oh God, yeah. Talk about eating shit sandwiches for days. The growling.
we called we just called him Judge Cy because that's all he did. At first, it seemed kind of, you guys know more than about him than we did. So we were just going by what we were looking at. At first, I'm kind of like, okay, he's sighing equally here.
Yeah, I felt like he was at first too. I
And
was optimistic in the beginning, but
then he wasn't. And then there was one of the last sidebars. It may have been that question about Paula. He was very animated, and he was very animated towards Ty, I thought. And he had his head in his hands again. And I remember commenting that that was so inappropriate for a judge to show any kind of emotion to either side in front of the jury. Should never happen because you can sway them.
yeah. And I
And
honestly, I think that part of the demeanor of the judge and the state in terms of not being professional did sway the jury some. And one of the things that I forget what they call it, but there's rules that everybody agrees to before the trial. Things you can talk about, things you can't. And one of the things Ty put in there is like, you can't admonish me for being not a lawyer, through this. Well, not in front of the jury so much, but outside the jury, those two bullied him, I thought, horribly because he wasn't a lawyer. And that was unnecessary. And that affects him. Like, and that's not fair. Not that life is fair, but that's not fair in a courtroom. I believe, because two people picking on one person, it's going to affect his sense of self and abilities. And he's already up against.
He's already not comfortable.
Yeah, completely out of his league.
Yep.
And then for them to even nitpick or whatever, I thought it was horrible, professionally and probably legally.
Exactly. I'm not an attorney by any means. So, but I think I had heard, I saw another attorney go after Judge Doro up in Wisconsin because they were looking at something, I don't know, and they kind of had a sidebar, and Judge Doro was pretty good about not showing any emotion or not doing it. And she kind of did at that moment. And the defense attorney said, "Hey, I don't appreciate that."
Right.
And she kind of came back a little bit like, "I didn't do that." And then she thought about it and said, "I did. And I'm sorry."
And that's perfect, right? We're human. Judges are human.
Right.
And things are hard. I mean, I can't imagine being a judge and trying to stay completely neutral. But Jones, from day one, has been the opposite of neutral. From day one. What I've experienced in that courtroom firsthand over the years is horrific in terms of bias. And he's misogynistic. I mean, Ty had a beautiful, confident female attorney, and when she would get like animated, he's like, oh lady, oh woman, don't get hysterical. And I mean,
oh my God. that gets you in a lot of trouble nowadays. I mean, it's inappropriate.
It is, but he did treat her like that. And just even in her vigorous defense of Ty, he minimized. He's like, "Oh, I really appreciate how you're fighting so hard for him," like just minimizing her efforts when she's actually like, there's been crimes committed here. This guy's,
Right.
and the judge just completely dismissing it and not looking at the facts, refusing to, and just blindly accepting the prosecution, especially the first prosecutor. The first one.
Is that Colleen
Dunn.
Colleen Dunn. Sorry. I had kind of had a little mixed up there, but I have
if her lips are moving, if her lips are moving,
So she got in big trouble,
That's
right?
my
For this
opinion, by the way.
oh, yes, we don't have it. These are all just opinions, and that's it. What
And the
was
Florida bars. No, just kidding.
I can't I think he's good. Is he good? Have you
Yeah, let me
it
see.
says I have a new message. Let me oh, no, I do. Maybe he's I don't says I have a new message, but I don't have anything there.
So I'm going to address this because it did come up in trial. A bunch of people were very critical of Ty. You have to understand, since basically 2018 till now, Ty has not had to be anywhere on time. He's
It
not lived a life like we've lived. He doesn't understand time management. Um, and I think a lot of those realities hit him pretty hard during trial. You know, he did. I knew this. Like, I can't express it. Like, I knew how challenging it was going to be for him. I mean, not only is he doing this whole pro se thing, but just being out in the world, and having to be organized and clear minded thinking. And I mean, if I have a few bad nights sleep, I don't function right. Like, this guy has just not been in a social situation where a professional world where you have to be accountable for your time and have things prepared. He's not in that place because of his
right,
incarceration. I mean, it's house arrest. I mean, he's out on house arrest, which is good, but it's still house arrest.
right. And so, yeah, you gotta what do you where are you gonna have to go?
Yeah, he doesn't he doesn't understand time the same way.
Right.
We,
Well, and my son lived in Florida for a little bit, and I'm like, I don't understand because I was one of those people like I don't understand. Leave 4 hours early or whatever if you need to get to court on time. Just get there on time. And my son said, "Mom, you don't understand Florida traffic." I was like, "Well, you're right. I don't understand Florida traffic." So, but then when I heard Ty say that, I'm not used to having to be anywhere on time. So I don't know how to judge for it. And I thought, well, that makes a lot of sense. It was frustrating because we don't know. He's not looking at us going, "Hey, you guys out there watching me, I don't know how to judge for time." We're just looking at it, and the judge is getting mad, and then of course everybody's mad. And I just hoped that the jury never knew
they did. I
why.
think well, from what I heard, that they felt like Ty was purposely wasting time.
Right.
And so I think they did get a sense of that. When that wasn't true, like some of the gaps in time was not his fault. It was the state's fault, like they
Right.
misscheduled things. And I mean, how many trials have you watched that go on forever?
Ever. Yep.
And you sit there and you're like, you want to kill yourself. It's
Yep.
so long. How can anybody pay attention? And I couldn't understand because this trial didn't go into depth. Like, there's nothing deep, or like some of the lengthy scientific, questions.
Yes.
And oh God, it could be tedious. And there's nothing even close to tedious.
Yeah.
So I couldn't understand why the judge was being so impatient.
And he was. And those trials that you're talking about that go extra long are with attorneys. And they can't keep it together.
Right.
And so what did he say his original trial was scheduled for? He said it in the hearing yesterday, and I don't
It was a
because
month.
a
It was,
month, okay.
yeah. They had 4 weeks scheduled.
Because this judge was gonna only do 2, this new one, right? And then is he gonna do 3?
We don't know. So it's gonna depend on nothing's you did you watch the whole thing from yesterday?
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
watched
basically
the trial or the
he
hearing,
has
yeah.
those dates, he put those dates out in May or in June. Um, if he stays on the case, then they can decide if it does need to be longer than 2 weeks. He would have to look to the later half of the year, but
Okay.
he doesn't have those dates to look at yet.
Right. Okay. So
So
I didn't hear the first part because I think you said you had technical difficulties with the very first part of the hearing. So I didn't hear why the judge may have to recuse himself.
so the what it was is, so he comes from the public defender's office. He worked as a public defender. Um, and during the time working there, when Travis had a public defender, Ty's co-defendant, he was working there at that time. And so he wasn't clear on the law, whether or not that was too close of a relationship. But he hadn't found, he did say that the fact that they're sitting there right now means he has not found any legal basis that he would need to recuse himself. But if he does find it, he will,
You will.
is
Okay.
what he said, which he has to. So I didn't know why he was emphasizing that so much. I'm like, obviously, if there's a law, then you will. But like, it sounded like you wanted out of it to me.
Right.
That will be out of here.
Well, I mean, obviously, we're hearing just a very short period of time from is all I heard of him yesterday, but he seemed very just cut and dry. It's
I
I'm
tell
gonna
you
do this,
right now,
and then we're gonna do this.
I think the way he handled, and we can say this before Ty gets here, which he said, he's probably another 10, 15 minutes.
Okay, we're fine.
The way he handled Ty, because Ty, is, everybody probably knows, he has a very distinctive way of communicating, which is he talks. He'll listen. I'm exaggerating, but the judge got so frustrated with him about that. But the judge didn't control the situation in the dialogue. This judge did. Like, Ty tried to explain something. He says, "Sir, you're going to have to understand. I'm going to ask you questions, and you're going to have to answer that specific question. And then I'm going to ask you another question, and you can answer that specific." And I thought, it's annoying and kind of, might be offensive in some ways, but it's not, given he's a judge. And he does need to be efficient with the time. And he
Right.
does need to control the people in the courtroom and how they communicate. So I feel one thing I really do like about this judge is I think that he will handle Ty's uniqueness in a better way than Judge Jones ever could. Jones just doesn't have the patience.
Right. And he didn't want to. He didn't seem to want to be there that entire trial for anything. So I think he was pulling for the prosecutors, obviously, but he just seemed so disengaged in the whole thing, I thought. I didn't think that he ever seemed to just walk out and be like, "Oh, I'm happy." Not that anybody's going to ever be happy to be at that kind of a trial, but just at least act interested in your job.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
you
I
don't.
I think he has contempt for Ty and the whole situation. Why? I don't know exactly. I mean, I understand now why on some levels, but in the beginning, why he was so contemptuous. I don't know where it started, other than he's a judge and this guy's not. And, he's got,
Yeah.
But he's had a big fat attitude the whole entire time. And definitely very impatient with Ty. I don't understand his impatience. I mean, there was a lot of motions filed in this, and I guess I think the judge and the state's position is that it was frivolous. The motions we were making were frivolous and trying to draw it out. That wasn't true. The fact is, the state wasn't ready for trial. We were ready most of the time, and they would be like, "No, we're not ready yet for this reason or that." So it was back and forth, but like, it always came to finger pointing on the defense's side, like from the judge, like
Right.
that was causing trouble.
Well, because he was the easy target.
Yeah.
Because he could have had an attorney, doesn't have an attorney. That's his choice. So now he has to deal with the consequences of it is kind of how I felt.
Yeah, which is not okay. That's not how it's supposed to be handled. I mean,
But
he's
it seemed
supposed
like that's how he treated him.
well, and it's funny because the judge, if you noticed from yesterday, the new judge, made mention of the previous trial, and he's like, "I think this next trial will be much more a lot of the, loopholes or a lot of the problems in the first trial won't be the case in the second trial." He says, "I run a very efficient courtroom." And he said a lot of judges, in an abundance of caution, making sure, like he was implying that the judge let things go out of hand a bit because he was trying to be fair to the pro se defendant. And I think Judge Jones was as bad as it was for Judge Jones. The first half of that trial, I was shocked. I've never seen Jones that nice. So I
And then it
think,
was over.
and then it was over. He would have no more. And
Yeah.
that was ridiculous because, what Ty was asking for are things that, like getting Paula in early. That's not unheard of. It's pretty normal.
No. When they've said that, like, we don't do that. I'm like, people do it all the time. I've watched tons of trials where I've even seen the expert come in the middle of the prosecution presenting their side for the defense. So,
I mean,
I wouldn't want that if I was one side or the other for their expert to come in the middle of my presenting my side, but I've seen it done. And his was just a conflict of interest in scheduling. It wasn't what she was going through. And I was sad when I saw that she had passed away, but it was kind of like, in your face, judge. I hope you feel horrible. I hope the state
well,
feels horrible, and I hope the judge feels horrible.
I really
Because
wonder why he disqualified himself.
I was going to ask that. Two weird things happened at the end of that trial. One was when the judge declared a mistrial and immediately followed it with, "We have to get this right back on the calendar." I'm like, well, aren't you going to ask the state if they want to put it back on the
I think
calendar?
he got in trouble for that. That was the only thing I thought he might have gotten in trouble for doing that. And part of what makes me think that is that this new judge, specifically asked the prosecutor,
I did hear him ask. Yeah.
is this something that you want to do? And Judge Jones did not do that. And I thought that was, I'm not
It was
alert.
weird.
But to me, it should have been, are you ready to make a decision whether, do you need a week? Do you, a status hearing, something,
Right.
but not like we have to, and I think he said we have to get this trial back on schedule, not like
Mhm.
a hearing.
No, it was trial. We've got to get this right back on the schedule. And generally, they will say to the state, "Are you going to retry this?" And then they say yes, or maybe they ask for time, whatever. But that never happened. It was like, have you two been talking? You've
Yeah,
already just know what the other one wants because you just tipped your hand, it felt like.
I think so too.
So that was weird. And then for him to just so shortly thereafter go, "Okay, I'm out." I wasn't sad about it, but what
Oh God,
happened?
you should have seen the happy dance when Ty texted me or sent me the email about his disqualifying himself. I couldn't believe, because we've been trying to get rid of this guy for forever. And he's been like, hell no. He digs his heels in. He's like, this, I'm doing this. So that was shocking. And like, I was dancing around like a crazy person. I have a new puppy, and the puppy got so terrified it ran into a wall. I was just like, I couldn't believe it.
Yes, finally.
Yeah. So Ty has his own theory on that, and I think he might be partially right. I mean, the judge has done some things in this case that could cause him problems.
Well, and when you look at other trials, so we've got a big one here in Indiana, the Delphi case. They've asked that judge to recuse herself. Even I think they've gone to the Indiana Supreme Court over it, and she just refuses.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like, why?
Well, I think it's a problem. I think it's a problem if a judge is emotionally invested in.
And she is. There's been a lot of shady stuff go on in and it's bad, and I know people, they think I'm kind of crazy in my attitude a lot of time. I think they think I think nobody is ever guilty, and that's not true. But please prove to me that somebody is before you take them away for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
And there's been so much happen just in this trial here that there's already, if you just look at the comments, it's probably just like Ty. You just look at the comments, guilty, 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 guilty. Oh, they're so guilty. They know they're guilty.
Well, that's that's part of the problem with the judicial system, is that as soon as you're arrested and indicted, you're guilty in so many people's eyes. I mean, I have friends and family, who've watched me go through this with Ty, and I have to get, like, when I talk, I see people judging me. Like, he has to be guilty. He wouldn't be in the situation he's in if he wasn't guilty.
Yep.
And I'm like, duh, it happens.
It does happen. I don't know if this person ever pays attention anymore to me or not. It is what it is. But they said to me, the police don't arrest somebody unless they're guilty. I'm like, really? And they don't, they certainly don't charge them. Hey, we have a visitor.
Uh-oh.
All right. I'm
Late
going
as
to add
usual.
him. There we are. Hey, we're all good.
Okay,
Welcome.
good. Now,
There you
sorry
go.
about that. I had to pee for the state.
Did you pee on them?
Oh, I would love to pee on them. Let's not get freaky, but
I left out that detail.
No, I had it in my email. I just left it out too.
it's just it's been really weird. I got back from the UA. I've got friends, man, who stopped by, and they didn't know I was doing an interview. And then the UA people, they're usually a lot faster than that. But unfortunately today they decided to be slow. No, I was actually thinking about it. I was like, I told Lauren when I texted her, I was like, I should start trying to do it through my phone, and see if I can do it that way. If, for things like this, that when they happen.
Not the peeing on the phone, but
oh, well, that, yeah. Hey, Lauren and I, we have been having a nice chat.
Let me turn this up a little bit because, man, I'm having a little trouble hearing. Let's see.
Everybody's talking about donkey.
There we go. That's a little bit better. Okay, cool.
There.
It helps when I can actually hear you.
All right, good. I just say Lauren and I were we've been having an interesting chat, mostly about Judge Jones, or Judge Sy as he was known.
Oh yeah,
channel.
Judge Jones.
Yeah.
Judge Jones was quite the trip.
He is something. I'm glad he's gone.
Yep, me too.
I like your new judge so far, just in the little bit that I seen him.
Yeah, me too. I liked even the disclosures. When he came in and made the disclosures, it was like he doesn't have to do that. He's being so careful about the rules, and he wants to make sure that he's going to be able to actually do it. Before he goes ahead and makes any rulings on the case. I can understand that.
Right.
It costs us a little bit of time, but but the bottom line is actually, as far as it goes right now, I mean, look, I was telling Lauren, the faster they want to go, was it Mansfield wants to get this back to trial as fast as possible because it actually benefits him, not us, right? Right now, when I put in the motion to dismiss, which he made a nice little pouty face. I don't know if you watched the video, but as soon as I mentioned the motion to dismiss, he went ahead and he got a little pouty face on, and he definitely is not happy about that. And,
Mansfield?
Yeah, and the thing is if he can move fast, he can avoid that, right? That's the point.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is no, you're not going to avoid that, because I mean, in that motion, not only am I going for, all the stuff they did prior, but the stuff they did at trial. I mean, I'm accusing him of criminal charges, so it's like, I would try and avoid that too if I was him. I'd probably make a pouty face too if I knew that was coming forward. So we'll have to see.
He also rolled his eyes like, yeah, right, whatever.
Well, there you go, right here. Mansfield is the worst. His face was hilarious.
Oh yeah, gotta love it.
Yes, he was not a favorite for any of
No.
us.
I can't imagine him being excited about doing that again, though. Like,
Nope.
No, he's not excited about doing it. He wants it over and done with, is what he's thinking. You know, and
Well-
somehow he thinks he's actually going to win. I don't know where he thinks that, unless he actually, you know, look, I don't know what dirty stuff they've got planned for next time around.
That's my
You know, but
Yeah.
the thing is okay, we always catch them anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
that's
they'd
my
have to be
fear.
real good. They'd have to be real good. I mean,
Yeah.
they're going to do something dirty. I can guarantee you that they're going to do something dirty.
Oh yeah, I mean, personally, my thoughts on that is they're going to go for trying to buy themselves another witness or two. That would be the best one now as far as their options. You know, because realistically, Travis isn't going to be enough. And I mean, as far as him not being enough the first time, I didn't get through with him, you know, the first time. And, you know, the next time around, oh no, you know, matter of fact, okay, one of the crimes I'm actually accusing them of is subordination of perjury. And that's by putting Travis on the stand at all. So if he even comes back for the next trial, we'll see. You know, it's like, because I mean, putting him on the stand, you know, no, that's a crime. You know, I mean, you know, it's so Mansfield wants to go ahead and try and do it again. No, that's all you know, but the feds, man, you know, it is a federal crime. So it's not something he can avoid easy. You know, I'll have to see how that works out.
I'm trying to star these questions
Oh,
for
so
you.
we're not on right now.
Yeah,
No,
we
we're
are.
on. We're on.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I didn't know. You know, it's like, you know, I don't want to start getting all crazy here.
Nope. You're good. You're good.
All right. But
So I do have a question about Travis.
sure.
And it goes back to your original trial.
Okay.
So I heard on, I think Justice is a Process channel, they told you Travis was in the wind and they didn't know where he was before that started.
When I went down there, our assumption at that point, because we couldn't verify it, we tried, but that Travis was he had been missing since June, is what we had heard, and you know, I could see why they would keep that from us, you know, of course, even though they're not supposed to. We have some questions about that, even as it stands now with probation. But the thing is so anyway, the idea was, okay, if that's the case, right, it would have been simple. I go down there, you know, I wait for the jury to go ahead and get empowered. Once the jury's empowered, I file for an acquittal and it's over. Right. That's basically it. Because now, I mean, as you saw, all they have is Travis. That's it. Right. So as soon as he's gone, which again, you know, I don't know if they're going to be able to keep him for the second round. Even the idea, you know, to be honest, the idea of them taking me back to trial, it's desperate. It's about as desperate as it gets, because they have, you know, literally, they're you know, I understand legally, you know, in the legal world, most of the time, the state has an advantage coming back the second time, right? Because they've seen what the defense is, they've seen what you're going to come with, but not in this case. In this case, no, you're at all the disadvantages this time. Literally, they didn't get to see our defense because the judge didn't allow the defense. So, okay, so you didn't get to see, except for what, Paula and me. That was it, right? That's the only testimony that, you know, actually got thrown up there. Even the evidence we had, you didn't see any of the evidence. You know, he wouldn't let it come in. So, you know, by doing that, they didn't get to see any of what we had. We got to see everything they had, you know. And yeah, I mean, and Travis, like I said, you'll be lucky if they get to keep him, you know, as far as a witness. And who they're going to buy, I don't know. You know, who could you buy right now that's not going to look suspicious?
I hope nobody. I was more worried. We were talking this Monday, I think it was yesterday. I'm off on my days for some reason, but I don't want them to show up with the surprise evidence of DNA or something.
Oh yeah, I can see them trying
that way,
yeah, I can see
because
them trying that too.
You know,
look, we were okay as far as the physical evidence goes, right? Because they've done every other dirty thing that you can possibly imagine, right? Pretty much. You know, I mean, they tried to set me up with the jailhouse snitch. That didn't work. You know, they've tried to, you know, again, the video evidence has all been tampered with, and I'm not even going to allow us to go back to trial until, man, they answer that question. Because I've been on with the sheriff's department, right? Sheriff's department is refusing to do any more investigations into the investigation, right? But they've never answered who edited and who deleted video files, right? All the video files, man, and you've seen them if you've gone to our channel. You've seen what we've got. I mean, my interview was cut up into 80 different pieces, and there's
Which is
sections
crazy.
missing and all that. Okay, and that question is easily answered for them, right? I mean, it's really easy to answer. All they got to do is go to their IT department. The IT department can tell them exactly who accessed it, when they accessed it, what they did, and yet the sheriff's department is refusing to do it. Now that tells me there's a good, again, you have a reason why you're not allowing that information to come out. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and subpoena them, and I'm going to make sure, man, that they bring those records. And
Right.
if the records have been messed with, if somehow, man, again, files, again, because they can go ahead and try and mess with the logs, but if they do that, that's, you can figure that out too,
Right.
So one way or another, we're going to get an answer to that question. And I have a feeling that's a big part of why this prosecution has been going, right? Because I don't know if you read Detective Pitcher's deposition, but what he says in that deposition, right? Because we asked him that question, right? We asked him, who deleted the files, who actually edited the files, right? And his answer is pretty shocking, and it has far-reaching repercussions, right? That's also when we got the gag order slapped on us, is that right after his deposition. And I have a feeling the reason we got that gag order was because they didn't want that story to come out, right? And basically what it is his answer was he gave his code, which, man, he's the lead detective, right? Gives his code and unrestricts access to all the files for the prosecutor, Colleen Dunn, right? And also for other state attorneys that have got that code. We have texts, where they, other state attorneys got this code, right? Now it gets passed around the office. Okay, you got to figure it's got to be worth something if it's being passed around the office, first off. But he says in his deposition he wasn't sure, but he didn't think it gave her the access or the ability to delete and edit files, from the case file, right? I kind of surmised otherwise later, and I was like, wait a second, that doesn't even make sense. Okay, he's a lead detective. He has to be able to put files into it. He has to be able to take files away, right? Because if he's running the case, you have to have that kind of access. Well, the other thing he says in that deposition is, unfortunately, that code wasn't just good for my case. It was good for every case in the county. And if it got passed around the state attorney's office, how many cases have been messed with at this point?
Right.
How many men have missing video files or audio files or anything digital, right? It's raw access to the digital evidence, which the state attorney's office should never have. Colleen Dunn, by even asking for that, I mean, she should be disbarred again. Not suspended this time, disbarred. It's like, I'm tired of the suspension thing. It's like this lady. I mean, besides my case, I mean, we have her on probably like 6-7 different major cases where she's done horrible things. So it's like, it's about time, state of Florida steps up and puts a stomp down on her, but the bottom line is I've decided, I'm like, look, I don't care what they want to try or what they want to pull. Answer that question first before we go to trial, because we know that there's been evidence tampered with. And unless you can answer that, you can't take me to trial.
Why do you say that, Ty? They can take you to trial. They can't
take me to trial with evidence that they can't, until they deal with the tampered evidence. They can't take me to trial.
But they already have.
They already have.
Well, I know they did, but man, we also didn't put up this fight like this beforehand. And man, I didn't have Lieutenant Colonel Scabilia refusing to answer those questions. You know what I'm saying? So it's a big difference.
I think you're overly confident and.
I don't know about overly confident. It's just, man, look, they've done illegal things, and man, all over this case. I've been going through putting this motion in. Fine, I'll put the motion in, and that puts it out there. It's actually on the record at that point. Now what do you want to do?
Right.
The same thing they've been doing?
No, because, man, they've been doing it because, man, it's been hidden before. Right up until the trial, I mean, we didn't have TV cameras, man, in the courtroom. We didn't have people, man, actually watching or digging through the case. Now we do. And, man, let's see what they want to do now. That's the point.
Well, and you also weren't allowed to be out talking about it like you guys have been now.
That's another one.
That's huge.
I mean, that's a huge one too. It's like, she's right. It's like, we had to keep our mouths shut for 3 years, right? And
Well,
before
that
that,
goes
we were
back to
very
what you
vocal.
were saying. You hadn't heard anything about this case, and and a big part of that is because
Yeah.
we were building momentum in
Yeah.
getting information out
Yeah.
and interest in the case, and then we got the gag order, including
Yeah.
a non-party.
Of course of
Right.
course. But it's
And,
like I told Lauren that at the beginning, you and I kind of had a little rocky start.
yeah. Here,
But
let me move this a little bit so I'm not in that light.
Thank
There
you.
we go.
we
This-
all
There we
here in on that watched it all started, like I told you, we all started where you saw us
Yeah, I know.
and all ended with pulling for you. And then, you know, we kept going. We kept watching your interviews. We kept, like I told you, Gabby's my little detective. And I can call her little because she's short. But
Yep.
she's like, did you see this? Did you see this? And,
Now
you know,
now
and
you know how Lauren felt in the beginning. You know, Lauren, man, when she first came to help me, you know, it's like, you know, first I told her no, right? I told her I didn't, you know, because I didn't know anything back then either, right? Neither one of us did, right? And I told her no because I figured, okay, they did a 5-day investigation. You know, I'm like, okay, you know, they're going to keep on investigating. They're going to realize I had nothing to do with it, and they're going to let me go, right? That's what I told her, right? And no, that's not what happened. And but I, you know, the way I told Lauren is I was like, because like I don't really like taking help from people usually anyway. I'm very bad about it.
I just told them all this.
I know.
Yeah, she
I'm
did.
bad about it. I really am. I'm bad about asking for help.
sorry,
it
I
is
have to put this up here real quick.
it is a
Lauren.
flaw, you know. But yeah, kind of. You know, believe me, I get the stern white voice quite a bit, and that was actually kind of nice. You know, so. But you know, when Lauren, she kept on wanting to help me, and it's about 2 months in, and we realized, you know, they're going to keep going with this thing, right? They're not just going to let me go. And you know, so what I told her is I was like, look, you're going to treat every word I ever said like it's a lie. You know what I mean? I don't want you to believe anything came out of my mouth. And you know, I'm going to have the lawyers send you everything. You look at it. If you look at it and you see, you know, if you decide you want to help me, cool. If not, you know, we're still friends. Everything's good, right? And so we had, you know, lawyers hated this, by the way, by having her, you know, send her everything. And I sent everything over to her. She looks at it, and you know, and she starts digging in even more, you know, because at first, you know, she looked at the affidavit. The affidavit, you know, is obviously false if you ever look at, you know, compare the evidence to what's in that paper, you know. And so she started seeing problems there. And then, you know, she kept digging into it. You know, again, it is a rabbit hole. Is a rabbit hole upon a rabbit hole. But the thing is, you know, you start digging into it, and you just find more wrong and more wrong and more wrong, and it's like it just keeps going down that hole. And she's the one who found the interview room tapes, which a lot of people haven't actually checked out, unfortunately, because it answers a lot of questions.
With
the hot mic tapes, basically.
It's Phelps, Malone, Pitcher, Sergeant Kellenberger, and a couple other players, we'll say.
Fernandez Smith,
talking. Basically, it's very interesting timing. It's when they had already gotten Tyrone's name because he'd gone to Metro PCS to pay his phone bill with Rory. They had their eyeballs on Rory, but they were trying to get that Rory was Detroit. Detroit was Rory. So they didn't have that solid yet. And so they knew that Detroit was at Metro PCS with this white guy. They get Tyrone's information at that point. So we have audio of this happening in real time.
Yeah, I went to pay my phone bill is what ended up.
So you went to pay his phone bill, and then it's like, oh, this is the white guy. This is your guy. This is your white guy. And then it gets worse because they're like, well, what are we going to pin on him? Basically. And they're doing a
you
photo.
Can hear it all. You know,
they're doing a photo lineup, and they're like, oh God, we got to show this to Todd, and God help us all. We better pick him out. We're all in trouble. I mean,
and he didn't, right?
He did not.
Todd didn't pick him out.
No.
Yeah, actually, Phelps is the one who does that, right? And what it is okay, she actually admitted in her deposition, right? This is what she says. She says that before she goes and does any interviews with anybody, right? Before she starts telling them all to say it was me, right? Which she does. The only thing she knew about me is that I was white. I was staying in the same building. Roy Wilson went with me to go pay my phone bill, and the picture that I had on Facebook at the time, right? Because I had that picture from Fantasy Fest where I'm, posing with a knife doing it's like, and the thing is like, so basically I was Maury Povich into the damn thing. But you can actually hear at the beginning of the second tape, right? Which is the second tape is the 12-1 is what it's labeled, right? But in the very beginning of that, Kellenberger's already working on a photograph for the lineup, and Detective Pitcher and Malone come in, and Phelps is like, "Here's your white guy," right? That's it. She doesn't say check him out, doesn't say go see what's up with this guy, anything like that. There's your white guy, and from then on, that's it. Just goes from there. I'm the white guy after that, and and they never correct it anywhere in there. Travis happens to be white too, happens to be staying in that building too.
And what's your
wait a second,
what's
happens
your
to be
height?
his truck and gets caught with evidence and everything else. It's
What's
like
the height
They're
difference
they're
between you and
similar in
Travis?
height. Travis and
They're
Ty are
similar.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's what I kind of was trying to judge him walking in. I mean, you guys weren't ever, that close
According
on.
to the police records, they're both about 5'9".
Okay, I thought you guys looked similar.
I think he's a little bit shorter than me.
That's what I would think too. I haven't been
he weighs a little bit less, or at least at the time, I think. But that's about it. As far as height and weight, man, I think he was a little shorter. Man, weighs a little bit less than I do, or at least at the time. But the big thing is, man, as far as Todd O'Quinn's description, right, is okay. Again, Todd O'Quinn, first off, knew me before this, right? So he knew what I looked like. He could have identified me real easily. But then you also had the goatee. I had a goatee that went down, down past my chest. You know what I mean? It's like, that'd be the first thing that somebody would notice.
Right.
And then the bald head, it's kind of hard to, get away from that one too. Brown curly hair and bald head aren't the same thing.
Right.
So, and then younger guy, when he described him, but he also, that's the other thing is Todd O'Quinn did not know Travis, as far as I know. Right. And yeah, when he gets shown the photo lineup, he doesn't pick me out. He picks out Travis and says, "This is the guy who looks most like the guy I saw that night." So, and man, not Saul sitting in a truck, Saul running away from the house, taking his mask off, just to be clear there, so it's like, there's a lot of evidence against Travis. Travis got caught on video. He got caught with physical evidence. He got caught, man, again, a witness man identified him. Right. So it's like, you've got this guy who you have all this evidence against. And man, you just cut a deal. And not only that, okay, one of the reasons I'm going for that subordination of perjury is when they cut the deal with him, he had already filed a motion to suppress saying that everything he said on that stand is a lie. That was all coerced from the prosecutors and from the investigators, right? Wow. That whole story, right? And he says it's all a lie, right? And he filed that with the court, right? So, it's like, and subordination of perjury, that law, what it says is if you have a reasonable belief that the person you're going to put on the stand is going to commit perjury, is going to lie, then you don't put him on the stand. It's that simple, right? And I think, man, him filing, court documents, because it's not the only one, there's a couple of them, but court documents saying that, man, that story's a lie, I would imagine that's more than a reasonable belief,
Right.
So
yeah, I think I kind of caught you saying something about that yesterday, but that's a lot. So everybody's, and myself included, was there something that put you, other than being the white guy, on Penny Phelps's radar? Like,
no, that was it.
That's
that was actually it.
I think that they thought he was homeless, that he didn't have money, that nobody would come looking for him. And I think
she actually says that kind of,
But I think the way they like these triangulations where they pin one person to get somebody to confess and this and this. And so I think he was a pawn that they used to get the other guys to say something. And then he wasn't playing the game like Penny wanted him to, because Penny's an egomaniac. That's my opinion. And
make sure we don't get sued. Go ahead.
We're all opinions here.
you know, Ty didn't play her game. He didn't fall into her, like Travis fell into her bullshit, and how Rory fell into her bullshit. Ty
Yeah, but that
didn't.
only works, man, if the person did it. You know, if the person did it, then that works.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, you know, then that's when they start looking for excuses and all that other kind of stuff. You know, but you know, again, they, you know, even the Reed technique itself says the answers I was giving are somebody who didn't do it. When they're threatening you with DNA and they're threatening you with blood and they're threatening you with all this evidence, and you're sitting there going, I don't care, test it, I don't care. You know, it's not going to have anything to do with me. That man, that's not somebody who's guilty. You know.
But the crazy thing is about the motive, and we still rack our brains about this, and I see a lot of people asking about what
Motives. Yeah,
Penny's ass is. Okay, by the time all three were interviewed, they obviously, Rory implicated himself, Travis implicated himself. There's evidence that both of those two were involved. Why did they then go and manufacture bullshit about Ty threatening a witness in order to get enough probable cause to arrest him? Why do that illegal action when they already had two people who put themselves there?
Well, you also got to remember that she already did illegal actions before that, even when she brought me down to the station.
Yeah, I mean, search warrant.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, when they brought me down to the station, I mean, Malone tried to lie and say I was there voluntarily. You know, well, let me tell you, when you're in handcuffs in a squad car, that is not voluntarily.
Right.
You know, and man, you know, they have to have. I was just going through these laws just literally just yesterday, right? Because okay, in order to take somebody and even detain them, right, you have to have a reasonable suspicion. You know, you can't, you know, just pick anybody and say, hey, we're going to detain you, take you down the station, ask you questions. You know, that's not how this. It's not how it's supposed to work. Because one of the things our lawyers did not really explore, and I'm kind of upset with them because of that, is okay, the misconduct by the police, the due process violations from that is enough to get you a motion to dismiss with prejudice. And the thing is our lawyers never looked at that, and there's plenty of case law on it, right? So I'm wondering why they didn't do that. But at the same time,
one of the most egregious aspects of that is the execution of the search warrant. There was a search warrant for Rory Wilson's apartment.
Right.
And during that execution, they illegally attempted to go upstairs to where Ty, Travis,
it's like going to other people's apartments, you know, because
right.
You know,
so it's like, okay, I'm on level 1, you're on level 2 above me. Okay, I can just, I'm a cop, I'm gonna go up and
but you're forgetting that the warrant itself wasn't legit. You know, I mean, they had a judge who was an owner of the building sign the search warrant, so that's not even legit. You know,
right. There's that, and I know too because that they knew they fucked up with the going upstairs for him, because there's video of a cop who forgot to turn off his body-worn camera when they're having this discussion. Oh my God, I know what happened. I saw that. And like, they're talking about them apprehending Ty, and Phelps turns around and sees the guy still recording. He goes, turn the camera off. Like I know. And then we have messages that we were just discussing where they're talking about retro that search warrant, like saying, oh, we got to get the search warrant for the upstairs to match the same date.
Right.
So after the fact, they're trying to make it look like because they got Ty to say it's okay to search after they already searched up there to cover up the fact that they did an illegal search.
Because I really didn't care. I mean, I was like, I'm not trying to tell you can search other people's stuff, but you can search mine.
I think that was a big deal, though, for them, which made them kind of dig their heels in. I think we underestimate maybe what repercussions could have come from that, because they really did try to cover up the fact they went upstairs.
Well, I mean, and Jones, okay, you got to remember we had a whole hearing on that. I mean, on the Koenig thing, right? Because actually it's funny because I actually had Thomas Skinner actually just called me for the UA, and he was telling me Koenig's his judge, but you know, he was asking me a few things about him. But thing is Koenig, he like I said, he signed a search warrant on his own building, right? Which you can't do that, right? That's a conflict of interest all day, especially when Rory was actually engaged in an eviction process with him. You know, they were trying to evict him, right? So I mean, he's in a court process with Rory Wilson when he goes ahead and signs a search warrant on his apartment, right? Which you can't do that, but Judge Jones ruled that it was just fine, right? Judge Jones said, man, he had no monetary interest in the building, right? Even though he's collecting rent checks, so I don't know how he's,
Okay.
goes
When you
ahead
own
and
something,
does
you
that.
have monetary interest.
It's like, okay, so, he tried to say it was fine, which, like I said, we had a whole hearing on that actually. And if people want to watch it, I'm going to go ahead and make it available on the channel, because there's some things I had to check about that yesterday about hearings and, whether or not I could post them and, that kind of thing. And Florida is fine with that, unless there's something in there that, specifically is, again, if we had like victims in there or something like that, then that might be something they want you not showing. But as far as it goes, public trials are supposed to be public, and there's a good reason why. Matter of fact, that's one of my points, is actually this trial in specific is why that is a right. You have a right to a public trial because of situations like this, right? Mansfield, he's trying to get that gag order put back in. He's trying to get a protective order. It's not a protective order. It's a sock in my mouth is what it is.
He ain't trying too hard. He didn't bring it up. He hasn't filed a motion.
No, actually he didn't, because I think he already knows, man, where that's going to go, and it's only going to make them look worse at this point, if they try and do that. We've been very vocal now that we're allowed to talk again. I think, Lauren and I, it's amazing, you go 3 years not being able to talk about it, and all of a sudden you're just like, blah, 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 blah,
How could you
and
not
it just comes
be?
out,
Yeah, I mean,
So-
I can't imagine what you guys have
And honestly,
been
it's
through that way.
thankfully because of people like you who have paid attention and do see how weird this is. We are so grateful that not only are we able to talk, but we are able to talk amongst intelligent people who are watching and actually care about this kind of thing and don't want to see this happen to other people. I mean, I think we're in a really unique situation given the trial watchers and, the people hungry for information and hungry to stop this. I mean, people who aren't lawyers, people who are just concerned citizens, and people who and we're so grateful that we have all these eyeballs now on this case and other cases. I think that's the only way this stops.
Absolutely.
Is through the publicity, and that is why trials should be public and all this should be public, is because it's in the dark that the cockroaches rule, and that's exactly what Monroe County was, a county.
I think a lot of people are seeing the ramifications here, because what they, just like when you decided to help me, right? It's the same thing. It's like, okay, what they're doing to me, they have, I'm not even going to say they have done to other people, right? They've done it to a lot of people. They've been getting away with it for 20, 30 years now. That's why they're shocked at, man, at what's happening with, with us right now. And it's like, for Lauren and I, first off, we're not the type of people to keep our mouths shut anyway. If we think something's wrong, man, we're going to tell you, and it's like, but the thing is, okay, these guys, man, no, they've been doing this 20, 30 years. I've watched people when I was in jail. I've gone through their case. I knew that, they didn't do it, or at least there was no evidence saying they did. Right. And, again, I definitely am one of those people. I go off evidence when I decide somebody's guilty or innocent, people can tell me all kinds of things. I'll go and check the evidence and see what that says. And no, there's a lot of people sitting in prison right now who aren't supposed to be there, and some of them for life, and it's like, and that's why it is so important what we're doing right now, because it's not just about me. It stopped being about me a long time ago. It's like, there are other people, man, that are counting on this now. It's like, and I was so happy, because one of the reasons I went pro se, one of the big reasons I went pro se, right, is because I wanted those cameras there. Because look, I knew I had a dirty judge. I knew it. I knew it back in 2019 when I wrote that letter. Everybody thinks I was crazy about it.
I read the only page I could find of it. I read.
Oh, well then, man, I'll go ahead and have to send you a copy, because, man, let me tell you the whole letter. Oh yeah, it's real interesting.
We read it I read it on stream. I was like, oh, well, I guess maybe now we know why Judge Jones.
Yeah. Oh no, Jones, man. Jones is, he has a vested interest too, because he knew, look, when I wrote that letter, okay, I'm outlandish in there as far as, man, anybody would think, man, you're not going to say, I know you're a criminal, part of a larger criminal organization, but you know what? I'm not scared of you, and I'm going to keep on fighting you. And with all the contempt you deserve, Franklin Tyrone Tucker, but the thing is, you're not going to do that unless you can, first off. And man, the reason I knew I could is because I had the evidence sitting right there in my hand. Right. So when I wrote that letter, oh yeah, I put in, man, exactly what he did. Right. And it's like, okay, now what? You were tampering with a witness. And in Florida, tampering with a witness in a capital case, that's a life sentence. So it's like, and he did it with 2 of them, not just 1, but we have evidence for 2. Right.
Wow.
And the thing is so when I wrote that letter, no, I'm not crazy. It's just, don't get me wrong, I might be, but man, but it wasn't for that letter. But the thing is okay, so I was happy the cameras came, right? But what I didn't count on, right, because I wanted them to keep the judge in check. That's why I said my lawyers weren't going to do any good, right? Lawyers, man, okay, they have to argue the law, but they also have to stay within certain constraints, or else they lose their license, or they get disbarred, or they get sanctioned, right? Whereas me, fine, sanction me, go ahead. I'm looking at a life sentence. What are you going to do?
Right.
And then the other one is, disbar me. I don't care, but the thing is my lawyers also weren't going to bring those cameras, which keep him in check, or at least we're supposed to. He couldn't even help himself with the cameras there. Still had to do dirty stuff, So it's like, okay, but I can only imagine if the cameras weren't there, what they would have gotten away with. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, I may not be as good a lawyer, or I obviously don't have the legal skills, but man, by doing that, it did bring the cameras. And this is the cool thing that I didn't count on, is it brought the right kind of cameras, right? It brought Court TV, it brought Law and Crime, it brought it brought legal professionals to look at a case where even Vinnie Politan sitting up there like, that was dirty, and he's like talking about the prosecution. He's like, I don't feel good about this. That was dirty. You lied to the jury, and man, and again, the judge let him go back there with the lie even when I proved it, right? And it's like, so they all get caught for doing dirty things on national TV, and you'd think, okay, think about that. You're on TV, and yet you still can't stop yourself from doing dirty stuff. That's how bad you are. You're they're so used to getting away with this crap.
Judges,
exactly.
They can't stop themselves.
I think judges have need to be kept in check. They really feel like they're on a different plane than the rest of us.
Right.
What I'm seeing based on this case.
Yes.
And
so
others.
for me, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I started watching trials. I started with the Rittenhouse trial, and I started back on Court TV because Court TV used to be on TV back,
Yep.
a long time ago.
I didn't even know they were still around, to be honest. I had no idea
either. So I was kind of trying to look, because I wanted to watch the Rittenhouse trial. I was very curious. It took me 5 minutes to turn it off of there and go look somewhere else because they weren't showing all the evidence. They weren't showing the video evidence. They kept breaking away. I'm like, that's the evidence that we need to see because that's either going to prove his innocence or not. So I started getting like, what's happening here with that trial? And then it went to the next and went to the next. And I know you guys have heard about the Zach Anderson trial. I watched that with a group of lawyers that were streaming it. I wasn't a streamer. I'm like very new at this. I couldn't watch trials for, it was a month or so after that. It devastated me because I was like, what is happening here? What is wrong? What are people not seeing that's going on? And because it's not just in Florida.
No,
they may be really bad, but it is everywhere.
It's
and you get those people.
I actually, I put a challenge
charged,
out
you're guilty.
on what is it? It was one of the interviews I did. But the thing is okay, going through this experience, it's like, okay, there's 2 main things that are a huge problem in our country that have literally destroyed our entire legal system, right? And that would be the plea deal system, and that would also be prosecutors being allowed to bribe witnesses. Those 2 things, right? it destroyed our legal system to the point where now they can arrest anybody for anything, and they can not only can they arrest you, they can hold you for, oh look, I've been held for 6 years before I got taken to trial, right? And then not only that, they can convict you because look, if it wasn't because if it wasn't for Lauren, I would have fought my ass off, and I still would have lost, and
Yeah.
I would have been another statistic, just another wrongful conviction, if anybody ever figured out that it was wrongful,
Right.
because you got to get somebody to care enough to figure that one out, right? But the thing is no, all they have to do, and I was like, I forget who it was. I know I did it on Michael's show, but I mean, I did it on a couple of different interviews, these bigger interviews on the mainstream media. And I threw the challenge out there. I was like, I'll sit down and I'll debate the issue with a Supreme Court justice. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? You tell me how this is, this is the system that's, we're supposed to have, how this is, actually following the Bill of Rights and, and making the system fair for anybody. Because, okay, right now, the idea of a fair trial, there's no such thing. It's Santa Claus. We're little children believing in Santa Claus is what it is. Because, no, as long as the prosecution can bribe witnesses and basically pay for evidence, then guess what? It's not a fair trial, right? Because the defense, man, we go to jail if we even try to do that. You know what I'm saying? So, that right there makes it not fair. But then you take in the plea deal thing. The plea deal is nothing more than being able to hold people hostage and, hold them for ransom. Is basically what it is. You're either going to take this plea deal or we're going to keep on holding you. And we're going to destroy your life because, man, guess what? I hold somebody for what? 2 months. That is enough to destroy most people's lives, right? That means you lose your job, you lose your place to stay, lose all your stuff, lose your spouse, your kids, everything else that you love in this world, right? Be gone in about 2 months, right? They held me for 6 years. I've lost everything. I gained some things, but I lost everything I had. That's for sure, including the years with my son. Last years of most people forget I have kids too. Right. I mean, my son was supposed to come live with me. I mean, how much can you pay me to, replace my son's childhood? You know what I'm saying? It's like, you can't. And, but those two things, they've made it so that, we're no better than Nazi Germany or Soviet Russia. We want to believe in the system, but not anymore. You can't. I used to believe in the death penalty. I can't believe in that anymore.
I'm that one's a hard one for me. I'm more leaning towards your way.
Yeah.
As far as like plea deals go, I know I was like, why did you not take the plea deal?
Okay.
But for me, it's because I'm speaking for me.
Right.
I would have taken it. I'll just tell you, I would
Even if
have
you were
taken
Lots
it.
of people, the
Even if I
majority of
was
people would.
innocent, because
You would.
like I would have one. It's probably a really dumb reason, but so my daughter used to be a corrections officer, and her and I've talked. I'm like, Carmen, I wouldn't survive. And then she told me all the horrible things that would happen to me, and she's like, no, you really wouldn't. You wouldn't.
You
And-
would have. You would have
and-
survived.
I was just like, I would not. I don't know if she's still here. She probably went to bed, but yeah, her and I actually had this conversation one day about. She told me things I never knew about prison and didn't want to know about prison, about what was going to happen to me in prison. But for me too, as I'm looking at it going, even though I wouldn't have my life all the way back, I would want my life back. But I also understand, like I asked people about it after I found out that you did have a plea deal and you didn't take it. I asked people, what would you do? Most of them said they would do what you did, what you're doing. And they said
That's
it would
actually
be
impressive because, man,
really
you know.
hard for
But
them
you
to
have to
not do
understand-
it.
I think you have to understand me and Ty on this too, because we are different types of people, and I think that I was kind of talking about this, like, I was in a unique situation to help Ty. I had time, I had money, I had this past experience of battling big money demons, and I wasn't afraid. I had conquered some things in my life, and but at the same time, I think Ty and I both also have a constitution of willing to suffer for a greater cause kind of thing. And I'm not that you don't have that as well. I mean, you might not want what you might experience in prison. I don't want that either, believe me. But I know Ty can handle it. Just kidding. Kidding. So,
I'm like, yeah, I made it out of jail. What are you talking about?
but I mean, I think that, you know, we're joking in some ways, but at the same time, he and I are the type of people willing to take a few punches.
Yeah.
Or maybe a lot of punches.
Especially a lot of punches, baby.
A lot of punches, if it could possibly affect a better good. And the only reason, like, I thought there was a possibility is because of, you know, Ty, his personality, his intelligence, his obvious innocence, and my situation in life and my constitution. Like, it's a strong combination, which I recognized early on might be able to make a difference. And that's betting on hard odds. But I think, you know, when Ty, you know, when early on, he's like, if you're gonna help me, this is gonna be a long, like I was saying earlier, it's gonna be a long fight. It's gonna be a long ride. And, you know, that did give me pause. I got kids at that time, we were littler, and, you know, this is really where I want to spend my time and effort. And at the end of the day, I just couldn't, I don't think I could have even slept in my skin if I didn't. I mean, I think about that all the time. If I didn't, and I was sitting as an outsider watching what Ty's going through, I honestly don't know that I could, how I would feel about myself.
Baby, it wouldn't have went down like this if you hadn't gotten involved.
Absolutely. So my daughter said,
whatever I would have had to experience, you in life in prison, you dead, whatever, on my conscience, on my watch, when I could have, I can't. I mean, maybe it's completely narcissistic of me, you know?
No, but it makes you a good person.
Maybe, or crazy, or whatever.
All
but
of the above.
Yes.
I've gotten called crazy a lot for that. Thing is yeah, it's like when you see something is wrong, right, and terribly wrong, you know, like, okay, that's another reason why, look, another reason why they need me convicted is because they know it's not over after this, right? You know, once the criminal's done, it's not over with, right? Because I'm not going to be happy. You know, I'm not happy until, man, I know that there's people, man, you know, that this isn't going to happen to anybody else, right? And I know it's already happening. I've seen it happen, right? So it's like, okay, you know, I have to deal with, man, not only making sure that, man, that, you know, it doesn't happen to anybody else, but, man, there's people, man, that need to come home too, you know? So there's a lot to be done after this. It's not over. And they know, unfortunately for them, you know, yeah, we're going to sue them. That's true. You know, and man, yeah, I plan on suing them for a lot of money. That's true too. You know, and here's the thing is, okay, but that money, no, that's not all I want. I want asses on plates. That's what I want. You know, right. I want the people who did this to be brought to justice. That's what I want. Right. So that I can guarantee that this doesn't happen to anybody else. Because let me tell you, yes, it is horrible. And it was horrible for not just me. It was horrible for Lauren. It was horrible for our family. It was horrible for our friends. It was horrible for everybody. And every time you send somebody to prison who isn't supposed to be there, guess what? It's horrible for all those people. You're affecting a ton of people's lives, right? Not just the person you're sending, you know. And I mean, and again, I can tell you how maddening it is to be accused of something like this and not have done it, you know. And
that's what
nobody. The level of frustration and the level of anger that you deal with, and you know, and again, sometimes I am not the easiest person to deal with because of it. You know, it's like, you know, you know, you can't even, it's hard to understand. It's hard to get anybody just to vocalize it to understand.
Yeah. There's no way to understand it unless you are you.
It's a lot of pain.
I mean, I was trying to deal with a lot of pain. I was trying to explain that earlier. Like, even as close to you as I've been in this situation, I can't.
Well, and man, I've even thought, okay, because remember, I've done a lot of advocacy work too, right? When I got out of jail, I worked with a lot of different groups trying to help other people, right? And, you know, like Sean Ellis was very close to my case as far as how he ended up getting convicted and going to prison, right? And, but you look at the evidence against him, and it was cops who set him up, right? The cops actually committed the murder in that case, right? But thing is I thought about them too. And man, okay, the only thing that I have in common with these guys is, man, okay, we understand what it's like when they come and get you. First off, because when they came and got me, it was like, I was so confused, and I was so, I mean, my head was literally spinning. I was a normal guy at 1 second, just normal dude, and man, next thing you know, I'm being called Charlie Manson basically, and I'm shackled from head to toe. I'm being, taken to solitary confinement. I have to clear the halls, man, because I'm so dangerous. And I got to clear the halls when I come down the hall and all this other stuff. I even had to wear shackles in the shower. It's like, and it's like, to go from being a normal person, at least pseudo normal. I mean, again, I was blue collar. I wasn't, I didn't have a lot of money. I mean, anything like that. But I mean, I was, I worked for a living like everybody else, and I worked with my hands, but at the same time, I mean, and that man Mansfield loves making a big deal about the homeless thing, right? He forgets the time period, right? Again, that's right after Hurricane Irma. Half the population of the Keys was homeless at that point. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, again, that's not, he throws it out there as some kind of disparaging remark, but at the same time, it's like, you got to remember the time period, right? So it's like, but I mean, to go from that and man, to just, that, and how the hell did this happen to me, right? Is basically where I was at. And I'm sure all those guys went through the same thing, because I can't imagine, like, from his perspective, I can't imagine being convicted and going to prison and then spending all those years, trying to get anybody to listen to you and trying, because I even told Lauren that it's like, one of the problems, when I realized they weren't going to stop is I realized two things. I can't take a deal, right? Because man, no, people think I did this if I did. The other thing is man, no, nobody's going to believe me. Everybody says they're innocent. Everybody says the man set them up, right? Nobody's going to believe me, right? Which is why I wanted Lauren, when I sent all the evidence to her, I wanted her to decide for herself. I didn't want, and the same thing with everybody else out there. That's why I had Lauren start putting all the evidence online, because I was still in jail when we started that. And it was like, throw it all up there. Let everybody see what's up, see what's up, see, man, because, again, I don't expect people to believe me. I don't expect people to believe a word that comes out of my mouth. Go look at the evidence. You want to know whether or not I'm guilty or not? Go take a look at the evidence. We put it out there for everybody to see. You look at the same stuff the cops are, so, that was kind of my deal. And I even said that in my closing argument when I was up there, at trial. I was like, I'm not asking you to believe me. Don't believe him, well, believe what you got in front of you. I mean, look, anybody can talk, but, the videos don't change. DNA doesn't change, the physical evidence, the witnesses, again, Travis is the only witness that they have against me. There was a lot of witnesses there, so it's like,
So
they still had nothing. Go
I
ahead,
have a
Lauren.
question. I have a question for you, actually. And having watched the first trial and knowing what you know and kind of having, your perspective changed, what advice could you give to Ty?
I always come back and beat me up.
I'm not trying to beat you up. I think this is a really good audience for and
No, actually, she did very well, man. Just when she talked to me prior to this interview, because when I first,
I was asking her, Ty. I wasn't asking you.
I made kind of a nasty comment to her, man, the first time. It was like,
because here's the thing, like, because I watched a lot of comments during the trial, and there was certain things that I've shared with Ty, and he, like, we're on this total. I'm not trying to hijack this or paint this.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
But just even for my own interest, because I am supporting, I'm helping Ty in ways he might not know I'm helping him. It really means something to me. What would have made his case stronger if, like, forget how bad the state's case was. What could he do differently?
You mean as far as like
anything?
You got a long list there, baby. Straight up.
I mean, but okay, major broad stroke points.
So one thing that because we did discuss, like, in our chat while we were watching you, like, we wish you would stop doing this, or we wish you would do this, or So, but you explained a couple of those things away. So if you about when that's why I asked you about Travis.
Right.
Did they tell you he was in the wind?
They tell me
Were
what?
you Did they
Oh,
tell
in
you
the
he
wind.
was in
Yeah.
the wind? Yes.
Yeah. They
So
did
were
too.
you
That was the thing.
not quite as prepared as you would have been if you would have known Travis was there?
We thought Travis
Right.
wouldn't be there.
So
Right.
so then I would say be more direct with your questioning.
Right.
But
Well,
I
you got to
can't
remember, here's
then I
the
feel
part
bad
people
because you
miss with
weren't
that.
prepared.
This is a big part of that, right? You got to remember, the judge told me specifically, can't go into the investigation, can't go into the misconduct of the investigation. Well, if I can't go into either one of those things, how the hell am I supposed to defend myself?
Okay, so
Right?
let me stop. Can I stop you right there? Because I
Yeah, go
think
ahead.
you can. I think you can. And I just want to have this conversation in this venue because I could be shut down and feel differently. If he, and this, it's a question back to you. If you took the merits of the case, forget the misconduct, forget everything, the merits of the case. What if it was super simple and Ty went up there? He's like, I wasn't there. I didn't do this. The state's going to present to you Travis, he was a getaway driver, but there's no DNA. There's no this, no that. I got Paula saying I wasn't there. I got Travis saying I wasn't there. Like, if we just, there's
Got
no
that
DNA.
reversed, baby. It's,
What?
Paula said I wasn't there. Travis said I was.
I meant Todd. I meant O'Quinn.
Anyway, hold on a second.
You know,
But
because
he did really well in his opening statement.
no, his opening
He
statement
did.
was great.
He laid all that out, and the
No, I know.
state laid
But
nothing
then I
out.
think in the I feel like he
I'm
got
still
mired.
listening.
I feel like he got mired in details
Yes, and
because he wants to prove something, show something more, and I feel like it's a distraction. That's my opinion, and I would love to see him go in like with naked storyline. Here's what happened, but I wasn't there.
right, and
Right.
you
Because
laid that out. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. If you lay that out in a concise way, dispute everything that they're saying, and don't. I feel like as much as we want to expose the shit,
Yeah.
I think in front of a jury it looks.
No, and we even discussed that before. Remember, we discussed that before I even went in. It's like,
Yeah.
look, I wasn't even going to go into the misconduct. I was going to leave that alone. And
Yeah, but you did, and you
yeah,
tried.
but that's
to,
because they didn't give me much choice about that. You know, it's like, okay, you bring Malone on the stand. I mean, everything leads back to misconduct. Any questions I ask her, it's going to go right back to that.
But you don't have to harp on that. You just have to harp on the fact that you weren't there, you didn't do it, they got no proof.
Right.
That's not you in the video. Nobody can prove it's you in the video. That's it.
Right. Except, again, think about what the jury did get. Right. Okay. When they came in with their rebuttal at the end of the closing arguments, and they came in with you paying off Paula, you know, that becomes a problem. I mean,
No,
jurors actually believe that.
That's off topic. Ty, that's off topic, because what I'm saying is like is as much as when they do that kind of shit, when you do it's extraneous to the facts, it also looks to the jury like you are sandbagging. And
no, I mean,
I'm actually asking her, not you.
No, I know. I'm just thinking.
I think from day one, if you keep this super, super clean and facts, that no jury could ever convict you. Because it's when you bring in the extra stuff. And if they bring in extra stuff, you shoot it down.
Well,
obviously.
The thing is, though, but here's the problem, and this is where they did it, and this is where they were actually very calculated with what they did. Because, okay, first off, Mansfield tried to bring that up there when I went and took the stand. I didn't plan on taking the stand, right? Got to remember, man, as far as the misconduct stuff, I didn't get a chance to present anything. You know, that's all stuff they present. You know, that's their stuff. You know, it's like, okay, you know, Mansfield got told by the judge because I objected and we went up to sidebar, right? Because when he started showing the pictures of California when I was up there on the stand, I started seeing where he was going with this. And I was like, you know, I objected. We went up to the sidebar. Even the judge saw where he was going with it. And even him, for as dirty as he is, said straight up, no, you can't do this, right? There's no evidence saying, you know, supporting what you're trying to go into, right? And so he got told, couldn't do it, right? So what does he do? Saves it for saves it for the closing argument, saves it for the rebuttal. Now the rebuttal, I can't do anything, right? I mean, I can't bring any more evidence after that. I can't put anything up there to rebut that. That's why I had to come in the next day the way I did.
You're off topic on what I'm talking about.
I must be missing it then, because the thing is okay.
Presentation of your case.
Presentation of my case. I didn't get to present my case. That's the point. It's like, okay, I got to put Paula up there. Paula did call Mansfield a dirty whatever, that kind of thing when she was, loopy. But at the same time, I mean, okay, we put up that, again, I didn't get to ask questions at that point. I didn't get to actually present anything, and then when I went up there on the stand, I told my story, that's it, and I couldn't go into the misconduct there. I had to watch how many times the judge, or actually Mansfield would object when I started going into different things. But
I guess my point is that you're not hearing if let's take the misconduct out.
Okay. But what I'm saying is I didn't get to present anything. No misconduct, no nothing.
That's a whole other issue. That's about preparedness and moving forward.
Yeah.
But in terms of the story, in terms of what you present, and because I think the picture wasn't painted, it's an easy picture. You weren't there.
Right. I get that, but I didn't even get to paint any pictures. Basically,
I'm not even judging the first trial, but I'm just saying, I'm asking the people who are watching, would it be convincing if it was very simple? And he kept it very simple.
Yeah.
Yes. So, yes, I think I know what you're saying. So, Gabby,
not trying to catch Malone in all the lies she told, not trying to catch Travis in all the lies he told.
But it's hard not.
I'm with you on that.
But
you do got to attack their credibility.
You have to. Credibility. You do. And you did a good job of it. 100%. Very good.
So,
but you notice that's also why both of them were subject to recall, because I planned on doing it during the defense.
But that didn't happen for various reasons.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that that's why I subjected both of them to recall, right? Because I didn't want to do it just during cross, because there's only certain types of questions you can ask during cross.
Okay, let me ask the question
Right.
Another way. Let me ask the question. Is there any one thing that would have early on made you go, oh my God, this is a shit show? And he's innocent.
I think they realized that pretty quick anyway.
Well, yeah, a few days in.
I did. So I was right away confused, and I commented after opening statements, even because, like I said, Ty laid it out, and the prosecutor was just kind of like, well, we're going to show you some stuff. I mean, I know he said more than that, but he didn't say anything. He did not say.
Ty did a better job.
Absolutely, 100%. He did not say, we're going to go here, and then we're going to take you here, and we're going to take you here. He just did, we're not going to take you anywhere, and he didn't.
Yeah.
Now, I think, though, too, jurors expect certain things in the courtroom. And so I think, and I think we all do this, and we all do things we don't realize that we do, right? So if you took a video of yourself asking questions, and then you watch that video back, you'd be like, I didn't know I did that, or I didn't know I said that.
I've done that, by the way, now.
Good. I mean, really, it's hard because you don't understand. There's a lot of stuff you may not know. You're just subconsciously doing.
Right.
And that's, so if for me, is I'm probably looking at it more as from just the juror standpoint. What are they thinking?
Yeah.
Right.
And so there were people and even some of the people that are watching with us, I don't like him. I said, fine, you don't have to like him, but you don't convict somebody because you don't like them.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. And we had that conversation a couple of times, and then they're now on your side. So it was just kind of lifting that veil of going, where's the evidence?
Now I remember you in the comments. I remember that.
If you don't like him, okay. Yeah. But,
and I mean, it's funny too, because I did go back and I've been looking at some of these videos, and even I've had to criticize myself on different things, right? Even when I was on the stand, okay, during cross, and this is my second time being on the stand over this case, right? This is actually the second time I took the stand, and the first time I took the stand was during our civil case, and the problem is okay. First off, when in both cases, when the lawyer tries to bully me, and actually tries, Mansfield tried it a few times when I was on the stand. And I start getting, coming back with the sarcasm. And I start coming back, aggressive. And the thing is, yes, I mean, it's hard for me to hide my anger. It really is. And I mean, I try very hard to do it, but it's like, and in the courtroom, I mean, I know Vinny was telling me, he was like, you're the calmest murder suspect we've ever had on court TV. And it's like, he called me Mr. Cool and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I don't see myself that way at all. Right. It's like, actually I am constantly trying to hold back my anger, hold back, man, the disgust I actually have for the judge up there. I have for the prosecutors, I have for the people who are coming against me, so, I mean, yes, I'm disgusted by those people. And, for me to go in there and act like I'm not is very hard, and that's a lot of people saw that as coming off as arrogant or coming off as, other things. And it's like, and I don't know how to hide that, to be honest. I really don't.
Well, I don't think you need to. I don't think you need to hide that.
Yeah, but you kind of do to some degree. I kind of do.
But I think you did a very good job.
It comes off as disrespect is the problem. And man,
I thought you did very well, in my opinion.
Because people, man, I mean, look, they can understand, me being angry. They can understand, they can understand things, but they don't want me to disrespect the process.
No, but you being indignant is completely appropriate. And actually, maybe you need a little bit more indignancy in the next trial. Like, not anger, but I'm indignant. I'm innocent. I wasn't there. This is not okay. You can say those things.
Yep. But that also is a danger. That's a whole separate danger, because once I start going there, you've seen how, man, I can go into how indignant I am.
No, I don't mean that. I mean, I think that the jury,
it's a fine line.
I think the people watching wanted that indignance. Like, they wanted to hear you say, Zachariah, when he talked to the judge and like, Judge, not only am I not guilty, I am. It was so powerful. And I think Ty lacked that moment, that opportunity in his case to talk to you did really well, and you did have a lot of great moments, but I think based on comments and stuff, you need a little bit more indignancy, a little bit more respect, a little bit more listening. And I think you have a magic combination, because you did so freaking well. Like, you did so much better than the state in every situation. They didn't out-lawyer you at any point. Lawyers
it's kind of hard when you have no evidence,
Yeah, I mean, lawyers might disagree, but from my perspective, you out-lawyered them every step of the way. The judge handcuffed you.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry I haven't put more of these comments up there. Just
I've been watching them.
Trying to listen, and they're coming in and
I'm checking it out right now. Actually, somebody put a comment up here.
So I apologize. I haven't been putting them up, but
that's the biggest thing I heard. I talked
actually,
to you.
And what this guy just said, it's actually something that got told to me more than once. Actually, Lauren said it to me at one point. It's the saying, I'm innocent. I didn't do this, right? And I've said it. Lauren's heard it from me. I don't know how many times. I mean, that's kind of what it is. It's like, literally, I've said it so many times.
Well, that's what I've told people. That's what I've told people. Yeah. You assume it already, right?
Right. It's kind of.
But you have to really. You have to see yourself as an actor in a role in front of the jury.
Yeah, and I actually don't even see myself that way at all. Right? When I was there, I didn't see myself that way at all.
Well, you need
it's
to.
Like I'm coming in, and it's like, okay, and man, you got to remember too, in some senses, and actually she brought this up, is it's I was flying by the seat of my pants in some ways, right, and trying to figure things out, at the moment, or shortly before, I did this or did that, because yes, I did go down there with different expectations, and and yeah, it's not easy. I mean, the whole thing is not easy. When I say I've said before, it's the most difficult thing I've ever done, and it is the most difficult thing I've ever done. Even the idea, especially for me at this point, it's like, of leaving 12 people to decide what's going to happen with my life, and I mean, trusting that, man, trusting I did a good job with picking the jury. It's like, I've never picked a jury, or never picked a jury before, really. I mean, I did once, but it was, it was over something, minor, but it was like, at least in comparison. And it's like, these people are going to decide whether basically I live or die. Is basically what this is. And, yeah, I mean, there's firms out there that, that's all they do is pick juries. I mean, it's an art form. It's like trying to decide, what these people are going to, what these people think, how they are going to respond to you, all that. And, and I had trouble with that. I got to admit, there's that point when the Boyd Dyer, and you guys didn't get to see this, but, there's like 100 people in there. And, I went to school. I went to school to be a teacher. Most people don't know that, that's what my degree was in. And, so yes, I do have some public speaking skills, but I haven't used them in, probably 20 years, 30 years. I don't know, something like that. It's like, so it's been a long time since I've addressed a large crowd, and, it was tough, especially when I'm sitting up there and I know I'm at a disadvantage. I mean, look, all those people, first hurdle you have to get over in any trial is everybody already thinks you're guilty. As soon as you're arrested, they think you're guilty, right? That's the bottom line. That's human nature. You're not getting around that, and that's that when I did the Boyd Dyer, that's what I told those 100 people. I was like, look, I understand. What we're asking you to do is incredibly difficult. We're asking you to go against your instincts, go against, what your nature is telling you, because yes, innocent until proven guilty is a legal concept. That is not how people think. People, they automatically assume you're guilty. They assume that the cops did their job. They assume that they actually investigated, that they have some kind of evidence. These are all, mistaken assumptions actually that have caused some of the problems we have in our legal system. Because we trust that these people aren't people really. We're trusting that they're not corrupt or that they're not going to make mistakes. Even ones who aren't corrupt, they make mistakes. Cops do. And it, but we trust that, man, again, that they do these jobs and that what they're saying is correct, right? And in situations like mine, it's like no, it's way beyond that.
I wonder if you could, in your opening, could say something like that. Could bring up, like, without bringing up anything, but just like cops are human.
I'm going to tell you square as far as this goes. I don't think there's going to be a second trial. I don't think they make it past the motion to dismiss. I don't see how they do, especially as long as the judge. Again, now that we don't have Jones as the judge, right? No, the amount of crimes they've committed, the amount of misconduct they've committed is going to be. I mean, look. I've been looking at all these different cases for citations, right? For, so I can actually put up there what the Supreme Court thinks about this or that or the other, right? What the other prior rulings are. And there's nothing that even comes close, right? As far as, man, the level and the amount and how much they've actually done. I haven't found a single case where, man, again, you can offer seven different grounds, man, for a motion to dismiss with prejudice. You know what I mean? Where we actually have the evidence to prove it. That's a whole different thing.
Right. If that works, that's great, but you also have to be completely prepared.
Oh no, yeah, of course. But man, okay, but you're kind of doing it simultaneously at that point, right? Because in order to do the motion, you have to go through the entire case and you have to literally pick it apart. And yeah, I've literally been picking everything apart. I also know the law a lot better now because of that, because I have to go through and I have to look at all the laws involved. Like, okay, I would have called some of these laws on Mansfield, man, freaking when I was at trial, if I had known them, some of this stuff.
No, and I agree. I agree that going through the motion to dismiss is essential homework,
right?
Even for the trial,
right?
But just,
Well, and not only that, okay, you got to think too. That's going to be televised too, I would imagine. That's a 2-hour hearing at least, an evidentiary hearing. And man, I would imagine that one's probably going to make it onto TV.
I just wouldn't count on anything. You don't know anything. We can't count on anything with what's going to happen.
I can't necessarily count on anything. That's true. I guess to some extent. But unless they put a gag order in our mouths again, the truth's coming out one way or another. That I can guarantee.
Well, one way or another, the truth is going to come out, especially with
well, and okay, but it goes back again to the same thing we were discussing earlier. Those legal professionals, right? Look, the average people, regular people like us, we sit here, we discuss it. Yeah, we can discuss the laws. We can discuss what we think about everything. Okay, that's one thing. But when you start getting discussions between high-powered attorneys and federal judges and stuff like that, and their man seeing what's wrong with the case, then it becomes a whole different thing, right? It's like, okay, these are people who actually have the power to do something. They actually have the power to actually, again, help get the DOJ up off their butt and get them down there and doing something. That's where it needs to go, right? Because I mean, again, it isn't just about my case. If it was an isolated incident, that might be one thing, but it's not. And definitely, as far as that goes, yeah, because they're getting a copy of the motion too. It's not just going to the court. It's like, literally the DOJ is getting a copy too, because I want to know why they're not off their butt. They accepted the complaint months ago, and yet I haven't heard anything about what they're doing. It's like, okay, I'm sure they've seen TV, I'm sure they've seen it, so it's like, okay, what are they doing? Because I haven't heard anything yet. They haven't come back looking for evidence yet. And I told them we have a mountain of it,
Yeah, that's probably not going to happen before trial.
Huh?
That's probably not going to happen before trial.
I don't know whether it's going to happen before trial or not. Like I said, first off, I got to see if there's going to be a trial, right? Because again, I don't see how, okay, if our new judge, which I'm going to assume, this is one assumption I am making right now, right, is I'm assuming this judge is honest, right? I'm not going to make him dishonest until I see he's dishonest, right? So far, he's shown me nothing but, that he can actually be fair and he can be honest. And if that's the case, there's no way they'd make it past the motion to dismiss. No way, right? Hell, they shouldn't have made it past the first one. First one's, well, maybe the first one, the second one, not. They wouldn't have never made it past, right? If it was an honest judge. But this one, that man explains all the misconduct from the very beginning to the end, and man has what, 50 different crimes cited that they committed. There's no way they're going to allow that to go. It's an aberration of justice. You can't do that, But the point is okay, we'll see. And even if they do, well, then there's other people who know now. That's the point. Is it's not in the dark anymore. We got to stop thinking like they're cockroaches hiding in the dark. Because man, no, now it's not like that anymore. And yeah, people will know when it goes down. We'll see. Because man, think about what a disadvantage even that is coming into trial, right? If you come into trial after I already named off 50 different crimes you committed over the course of the case, after I just Mansfield himself accused him of crimes, that he's either going to face or he's not. But man, we know he committed. You know what I'm saying? Well, okay, now what? You're going to come into a trial like that? That's a serious disadvantage to him. Because now he's got to think about every step he makes. What is he going to go, man? Again, it's going to come up with more misconduct. He's already worried about losing his license and should be. Well, I mean, you say that, because I saw the little roll of the eyes, and I'm sure everybody did too. But man, here's the thing: is man, you can say that, but man, yes, he is worried about losing his license. When you got Vinny Politan on national TV talking about you need to lose your license, guess what? There's people listening to it. You know what I'm saying?
Sorry, I'm laughing at Vinny because most of the time I am. Vinny he drives me up the freaking wall.
You don't like Vinny?
But Vinny just, well, and I have a reason. I don't dislike him because there's been some things here. Like I thought he did good great with your interviews. Yep. I don't watch a lot of court TV or law and crime when I'm not doing a trial on there, right, off of there, because like I told you, there's a lot I don't trust off of them.
Yep.
Right. With Zach's trial, with Rittenhouse, with just a lot of stuff. And I don't know if you've ever heard of the Matthew Moore trial.
Which one?
Matthew Moore.
No, I don't think I've heard of that one.
He's in Ohio. His wife she left and went out into the woods and she hung herself.
Oh, horrible.
They arrested him.
It's not surprising. I mean, normally the husband's the first person they look at.
Absolutely. But we're watching this going, what happened? Why did you arrest him? Kept him in jail for 2 years. He lost his house. He was retired at
Everything I
49.
just said, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was retired at 49. He's broke and homeless now.
Yep.
He was found not guilty, thank goodness. He had an excellent defense attorney.
But his life's
But
fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
but Vinny interviewed him after he was found innocent and
Oh.
seemed annoyed about it. And it pissed me off
Oh, that is annoying.
because I was like, Vinny, and not everybody's guilty. I know you're a prosecutor, but not everybody's guilty.
Yep.
Well, I just like Vinny because of the way he handled Ty's case. Like he was one of the first people to be like, "What the fuck's going on here?"
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
he handled it great. So
Yes.
Vinny and I are kind of,
Yeah, well, and I
you
mean,
know.
look, prosecutors are
Good to
difficult.
know.
You know, they really are. And the fact that he was a prosecutor, that was why I was impressed by him because, man,
Yeah.
actually, you know, he came into it. And at first, man, he's like, and, you know, some of the things he said, I mean, you know, when he's like, look at this guy and then look at this guy now. It's like, they don't look like the same people.
You
You know, he
don't
should have
look like
married her
them.
a long time ago and all this other stuff. Thinking that, man, okay, the picture that he was seeing back then is somehow representative of who I am or my life, right? I mean, I did wear a suit and tie long before that picture was taken, so it's like I've had different, stages of my life where I thought different things, and had different ideas of what I wanted for my life, right? Back in, when this all happened, no, I wasn't wearing a suit and tie. I was working down at the boatyard, and I was doing it because I wanted to go sail the world. I didn't want to go wear a suit and tie and be in finance. I was in finances for a while, and that kind of thing where I used to have to wear the suit and tie to office. Did the whole cubicle thing. But the thing is a lot of people actually don't know much about my background, and it's funny because there's been a couple people that have wanted to do stories about my life or whatever, and it's like my background is pretty funky all the way around. It's like I've done different things and did different things at different time periods of my life for different reasons. But I did go to school. I'm educated. A lot of people, man, like, okay, Judge Jones seems surprised by that fact. He's like, it's like, Lauren and I talked about this before. It's funny because over the last 6 years, I know a lot about them, tons. I actually research my enemy. I actually go back and look at what their background is, what they've done prior, all that stuff. Lauren, she's another one. She'll tell you, what your mother's cousin, man, freaking ate, 5 years ago, stuff like that. She's pretty good at digging into backgrounds. But I mean, when I went to school, yes, I got my degree in teaching, but I had planned on staying at ASU, right? And I was actually going to get my PhD in the history of warfare. And so I studied war, not law. There's a difference. And man, that's why it cracks me up when they think law is so complicated. It's like, okay, try warfare. Warfare is a little bit, a little bit more complex. And it also requires you to have a broader outlook on things, right? A lot of lawyers and a lot of people, man, that are in that courtroom, they think about it strictly about what's happening in the courtroom, right? And no, there's other things that affect that. You know what I'm saying? And that's the part they usually miss. One of the things early on, Lauren and I ended up getting sued over it, but we had Project Mayhem was our name for the defense for a little while, our defense strategy. But the thing is when we first started talking about it, one of the things we attempted to do was, man, again, divert their energy, their forces, right? Basically, so to speak, just like I would on a battlefield, right? It's okay. Instead of fighting, man, this main force and they're all focused right here, right? Well, make them fight over here. Make them fight over here too. Man, divert those, man, divert that. So, okay, when we made our complaints, yeah, now they have to worry about the complaints, right? They have to go and they have to defend those, right? And hopefully some of them are sustained. Hopefully we get somebody to come in and help us, right? Because that was another hope. It's by making those complaints, we get somebody to come in and help us, right? Another one was, man, the lawsuits. Start engaging in our lawsuits because, man, look, the civil rights lawsuits. It doesn't matter whether I'm guilty or not. You know what I'm saying? They're still violated my rights, man. We can go ahead and start those right now. Stuff like that. So now all of a sudden they can't just focus in on this one thing. That came about because too, and again, you talk about, I've gotten a lot of people, man, who are like, if you would have had a lawyer, this would have been easy. It would have been over. It's like, now you have to kind of know what was going on. right? Again, against that dirty judge, man. Freaking, I haven't had a lawyer yet who can answer that question. Not one. Okay, what do you do when the judge is dirty? When you know the judge is dirty, right? What are you going to do? How are you going to win? I haven't had a single lawyer who's been able to answer that question yet. And it's like, okay, well, my behind is still on the line here, and it's like, if you can't come up with an answer, then we're going to have to go with my plan, but the only one who actually, I shouldn't say that. There's one lawyer who actually tried. It was, what's that show? There's another one that channels on YouTube. It was, God, I can't remember what his name is. God, I'll remember it somewhere. I'm having to have a senior moment here. But the thing is his whole plan at that point was to just stack up evidence for appeal, basically stack up things during the trial for appeal. And again, if your idea is going to appeal, then we've got a problem to begin with.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I want to win.
That was on civil law, I think.
Yeah, it's on civil law. Thank you, baby. Because on civil law, that's what his that's what his thing was, right?
Yeah.
Stack up, all the violations for appeal, come back on appeal with a different judge.
Oh, okay. So that goes back to the big picture problem here is that all these cases, like Project Innocent, everything, post-conviction,
right.
Get
right.
convicted.
We'll help you post-conviction. Right, but here's the problem with that.
And then we're like, no, let's get in front of this.
I'm old.
But
I'm not trying to sit in prison for 8 years.
But that's crazy. There's no advocacy for pre-conviction for people who are falsely imprisoned.
Yeah, well, I mean,
detained, accused, whatever. And that's the thing where Ty and I bonded early on. Like, that's a niche in which is very importantly.
Yeah, we did actually try. We tried to get a lot of help, man, before then. And
everybody's like, nope.
And no, you have to be convicted first.
You got to go through trial.
But look, you also got to look at it from their point of view. And I get this, right? It's okay. The people who've been sitting in prison 20, 30 years, man, they're the people who need the help the most. I mean, they've already been hurt a hell of a lot more than I have, right?
Well, that wouldn't be the case if there was a front end.
I would agree with you. I'm all about preemptive, right? Yeah. But I see both sides here, right? And the thing is okay. And yeah, I mean, yes, I do wish there was more assistance out there for people, pre-trial. But the problem is also you got to think of how many people, man. Like I said, nobody was going to believe me because what? Everybody says they were innocent. Everybody says they were set up, right? So how do you do something where you can weed out those people and be able to help the ones that actually are innocent and actually, do need the help? I think the way to do that is, man, you go back at these laws. Again, you get rid of the ability of prosecutors to bribe witnesses, which they shouldn't be able to do anyway. How that ever became constitutional, who the hell knows? I don't know how we got there. But the bottom line is that needs to go. Then the other one is the plea deal system. And the plea deal system, man, needs to be revamped somehow. I mean, look, the argument from the government is that if we get rid of plea deals, then, man, the courts are going to be overrun and, man, we're not going to be able to handle all the cases of everybody going to trial. It's going to be too expensive and da-da-da-da-da. Well, here's one way, man, to make that less expensive. Stop arresting people over stupid shit, and that would clear up our courtrooms.
And
you know what I'm saying?
Let's address the issue of the fabricated witnesses, the snitches.
Yeah.
Like, get rid of that.
I mean, yeah, exactly. If you actually make them only go to trial and only be able to arrest people when they can go to trial, first off, and actually have to have actual evidence instead of, man, being able to hold them forever, man, with no evidence.
Based on somebody saying
you might clear up the courts then,
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, the thing is we have to make changes in the rules.
There must be some financial incentive.
You're going to get all the advocacy groups in the world. Unless you change the rules, we're just going to keep having the same problems.
No, but I think the solution lies in figuring out what the financial incentives of all that are and figuring out how to change it.
Well, that's partially. I can tell you that right now too. I mean, somebody actually did do some of it, but and there has been a call to change the 13th Amendment of the Constitution, right? That's a big one right there. Because right now, as far as it stands, penal labor is our form of slavery. That's what we got. Right. And yes, man, it's still engaged in. And, man, yeah, prison for profit is an actual thing. I mean, and if we change that and make it so that, man, you can't just stick penal labor out there and then doing jobs for people, man, doing jobs for companies. I mean, almost every major corporation in America has products made by prisoners who are getting paid, what, 72 cents an hour, maybe? You know what I'm saying? I mean, that is financial incentive.
Yeah, you got to turn that not into an industry.
Well, yeah, and I mean, what you got to do is, I mean, you go ahead and get rid of that. As far as the 13th Amendment goes, just amend the amendment. Make it so that the state can't engage in that. Right now they can, according to the 13th Amendment, as long as you're a convict. That's what they got. You have to be convicted. That's the caveat. But as long as you're convicted, yes, they can stick you to work, and they don't have to pay you. That's where chain gangs come from. And they stick you out on the highway, man. Doing work on the highway. Or they have you making things for companies who are willing to buy those from the state. So it's like, I mean, the bottom line is if you get rid of that, the financial incentive becomes a lot less. I mean, they already did away with, as far as I remember looking recently, they did away with prisons, privatized prisons, right? Because they were using that to make money.
That's your other money.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. If there was no money in it, private industry wouldn't want to do it. It's like, so, even the idea that, man, private industry was, interested in running prisons tells you there's something wrong.
Right.
It's like, I mean, even in this case, if you go back down, we haven't even gone into how deep the misconduct and how deep this whole thing goes when you start going down that rabbit hole. Lauren, has gone pretty far deep down into it. So have I. But here's one that, man, people down there miss, the people who live there. And this is for anybody anywhere in the country, right? You see this going on in your community, and man, you might want to think about things. Okay, Sheriff Ramsey gives back the money, the tax money he gets from the community. He gives that back every year. Now, how is the police department able to, give the tax money that they get to run the police department? How are they able to give that back every year?
Yeah,
how's that not a red flag? Because, man, I don't know a police department out there that's designed to make money. They're not supposed to. You know what I'm saying? So how is he making so much money that he can afford to give back the taxes?
Every department I've ever known is underfunded.
Well, and there you go. So he's got plenty of money, man.
There's not as much cocaine in other places.
But I mean, okay, that's the point. It's like, okay, how is he making so much money that he can afford to give that money back? And man, might want to start looking into that. That's kind of a red flag, as far as I'm concerned.
I think it is known that it's seizures and such.
Well, I mean, seizures is definitely one thing. I mean, everybody knows about, seizures and, making money off of that. A lot of people don't know how much money he is making off of that, but, that's a whole nother subject.
Yeah, my daughter says she has an answer for that, but she's not trying to go to jail.
I've been enjoying your daughter's comments.
Thanks, Carmen.
So, there's that. I have a question I have to ask you that was asked a while ago.
Okay.
So it's kind of changes the subject, but Gabrielle said, can you ask him what Mansfield did to make Paula so mad for her to flip out and sorry for your loss?
Well, okay, Paula, okay, you got to understand, Paula was very sensitive about me, right? She did not like what they were doing to me. She didn't like the fact that they were making me go to trial. She didn't like the fact that they didn't drop the case. I mean, it's funny because I didn't like the way they treated her either. I was very sensitive about the way they treated her. And I'm still, Mansfield, we want to talk about hiding my anger and stuff like that. Oh man, I'm still extremely angry over what they did with her, and again, when I say this isn't over, after this is over, this part of it's over. No, Mansfield, him and Alvarez, actually, I mean, literally the state in general. It's like the way they treated her, and Ward had the nerve to come back when he said, announce the retrial and to say that he was doing it for justice for Paula and justice for Matt. And it was like, you got to be kidding me after what I went through in that courtroom, trying to defend the victims, what I'm saying? And I mean, it's like, they got in there and I mean, they're, talking about, he literally accused Paula of committing a crime, and taking a bribe from Lauren, again, as far as she's that dirty a person that she would get up there and, man, give testimony, for, somebody who killed her friend is basically what they're saying. Right. And it's like, you know, what they pulled is, man, straight up disgusting.
Well, and I think it goes back to Mansfield Paula's anger at Mansfield goes back to previous prosecutors and police who did not listen to her from day one.
Right.
And her anger is based on that they continuously tried to put Ty in this. She continuously told them no.
Well, she also got to watch over the last few years what they've done.
And
right?
Yes,
we've been friends now.
And mind you, during the time frame that Paula went to California, she and I weren't in communication. That was previous to me being allowed or knowing I could even talk to her. That when
look, baby, I'm not even willing to even give that even any credence. It's like, look, even the fact that he was willing to go there and not even have a fucking shred of proof. You know what I'm saying?
But the anger happened before the trial, so she had animosity towards him.
Yeah, that's true.
Got granddaddied from the cops to the prosecutor to her continuously saying it wasn't Ty, and them not okay. It also goes back to this. Check this out. So right off the rip, when the crime happened, Paula's a victim. They take Rory Wilson's pregnant girlfriend who supposedly made false, whatever happened with Rory Wilson's girlfriend, she's a fucking liar, gave her free rent, put her up. She had a victim advocate and gave her free rent. Paula had nowhere to go. She couldn't go back to where she lived. They offered her no help whatsoever. She was a serious victim. And April Walker, Rory's pregnant girlfriend, was not a victim. She was an accessory to the crime, should have been arrested. And so a lot of Paula's anger was based on that this woman who was the wife or girlfriend of the man who slit her throat and killed her best friend was given benefits.
And not only that, go to Anthea Clay, who didn't get man arrested or man even charged or anything like that.
And there's
same
that.
Thing. You know?
Yeah, same thing. So Paula had a lot of reasons to be angry about this. And outside of our friendship with Ty, because they knew each other at the time, but it's like, honestly, I got my fucking next and I witnessed this. I mean, she's a complete victim who could point the finger at the person who set up the crime, the person who put the knife on her neck, and they just demonized her the entire time. They took advantage of her. I mean, there's things I know that I'm not.
What's worse is I knew they were going to do that, by the way, as far as demonizing her and
But not just that, they used her, and they threatened. They used her for other purposes in law enforcement, and held this crime over her head with a threat of, oh, we might incriminate you too. And yes, it's very dirty, very bad.
Yeah, they did a lot of things, and man, it's like, okay,
I can't even say anything. Incriminate her.
Yeah, because I mean, that started beforehand. It was like, you know, there was a lot of things. Paula, like I said, we were both very sensitive about each other, right? Because there was times, man, they tried to throw me back in jail prior to trial because they know, man, you know, again, that's not a very good scenario for me, right? Matter of fact, that was one I tried to keep from Paula. I tried not to discuss it with her, right? Because I didn't want her worrying about me. You know what I'm saying? But there was times, I mean, again, she called me freaking out. You know, there was one time that cops showed up at her door, man, when, you know, I was on the phone with her, and I freaked out over that one. But there was one, you know, when they first let Travis out, that's how I found out, right? I found out because Paula calls me up hysterical, right? And man, because they didn't get a protective order for her, right? So man, they let this guy out and don't bother to get a protective order for her, you know? And man, she's calling up the accused killer, you know, because man, of what they did, like, and unfortunately, there's not much I can do. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm locked up out here in Oregon. I can't leave. I can't do anything. And who I can call to help, that's limited too. You know, but at the same time, so I was freaking out afterwards, you know, but the bottom line is like,
I mean,
you know,
I think that just goes to the story that, like, they didn't give a about Paula. And
right.
she
that was clear. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
no, they don't care about Matt either.
No, because they don't even talk about
it. I remember what Mansfield said at the end of Rory's trial about Matt. And man, that one disgusted me. And I've only met the man once, right? I met Matt one time, right? That's it. right? But I'll tell you what, it doesn't matter. I didn't have to meet him even that one time. Mansfield at the end of Rory's trial, this is what he says during his closing arguments. He's like, well, was Matt going upstairs to help, or was he going upstairs to buy drugs? We'll never know. And it's like, okay, this man has a family, right? Straight up.
Not only that, he was loved. He was loved, from
right, and he was loved in the community.
People really loved him. He was an entertainer, street entertainer.
My point is, though, why do you have to say that? The guy's already a victim. He's already dead. Why do you have to put that in your clothes? What the hell is even the point of putting that in your clothes? That's just a disgusting person at that point. That's all it is. And I can understand why everybody out there hates him, because I'm not exactly a fan either. So it's like, the point is, man, that guy. Why would you even do that? When I heard him do that in Rory's trial, I knew I was facing somebody who was disgusting. I
mean, that's the thing that bothers me about the press with Ty's case and everything, is it really is. Nobody's talking about Matt, the man who died.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't ever hear about him.
No. And I mean, that's a travesty. This is justice for Matt. Right.
Well, and I mean, most
what
people
does justice for Matt look like? It looks like this guy lying, treating victims
I said that during the trial when I was arguing with Judge Jones, and I'm like, it's supposed to be about the victims, right? And he's like, no, this is about the state versus Franklin Tucker, Tyrone Tucker. No. Oh, well, then why am I on trial? It's because it's for the victims. It's not for me. You know what I'm saying? It's like, again, this is for Matt. It's for Paula. It's for Todd. It's for the people who got hurt that night. It's not so the state can prove their case. That's not what it's about.
No, and that's a problem. That's the problem.
I actually said that during the trial, but that's the only time Matt's name ever even came up during the trial, right? Well, I don't think they brought up Matthew Bonnet's name once.
Definitely change that trial too. I think one of the things that Ty could do better is painting a picture of the characters and what happened, and giving a more.
I don't think it would have been believable in a sense, actually, because man, people had trouble believing that when I did it. When I get up there and I'm arguing Marcy's law against the fucking prosecutor and against the judge.
That's not what I'm talking about.
The victim to be able to testify.
That's not what I'm talking about. They care. It's like just painting the picture of what happened and who died, and respecting that and respecting the victims, and it's more about the victims getting justice than any particular person being framed or what on a trial.
Unfortunately, man, and that was part of it too, is like, okay, and Paula did feel this way, and I know she did, but man, part of it is, okay, by doing what they did, no, they didn't offer justice to the victims.
No.
None of them, right? I mean, literally, okay, Paula had to relive, and I apologized to her for, man, her having, because she didn't have to testify. Right. And there was, I remember I talked to you, there was a time period there where I was thinking about not having her take the stand, because I knew her health was, not good. It was worse than what people had told me. But man, even when it was, even at that point, point in time, I was going to make it. I wasn't going to have her on the stand. I was actually going to go to the video for a second there. Right. But a friend of mine, man, he actually said to me, he was like, look, Paula's been wanting this for 6 years now. You can't do this to her. If she wants to take the stand, I know you're worried about her, but because I was worried about her health is what I was worried about. And I was worried it was going to be too much. And anyway, so, but he said, you can't take that away from her. This is what she wants. And man, and that was the only argument that made sense to me, actually, because everybody else was like, you got to do it. You have to have her on the stand. I mean, you need her on the stand. And it's like, and I'm sitting there, it's like, I don't care. I'm not that kind of a douchebag. I'm not going to risk her health, man, to put her up on the stand, Hey
guys, I got to check out. My birds are yelling at me.
I heard them. My dogs were yelling at me earlier.
Say hi to Felicia.
All right. Bye.
Bye, Lauren. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
So
anyway, it was actually a thing. And it was like, I almost didn't put her on the stand. And it was actually, she yelled at me too about it. So it was like, because Paula's pretty adamant about things when she's kind of tough for a little woman. She was very tough.
Oh, you could see it. I'm like, you don't weigh anything, but I wouldn't mess with you. You come back.
she could definitely pull that off. And it's like, she was something, that one. It's like, she never saw herself as brave, and I did. It's like when she first, But she first started going to the press, the same thing I said on the stand, when she started going to the press and saying that how she wanted to apologize to me. It's like, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, the very first words that came out of my mouth when we actually were able to talk, I was like, you're an idiot. I'm saying straight up, you don't owe me any apologies. You went through that nightmare. I didn't, what I'm saying? And it's like, so, she's something else, but I told her how brave she was. And she just always, she was like, she didn't think of herself as brave. She just thought she was doing the right thing. And I'm like, I was like, Paul, in this day and age, that is brave. People don't do the right thing these days. Too often people don't do the right thing.
Right.
I mean, even if they know, again, how many people, man, out there would have done the same thing. She knew I didn't do it, right? And she's getting pressured by. You got to remember, she's getting pressured by the police, right? They tried to pressure her a bunch of times into changing her story, right? And they threatened her, and they did all kinds of different things. And you wonder why I'm so sensitive about her. It's like, okay, because, man, yes, I know she's been threatened. I know they've done it. Hell, even at that trial, I know they doped her up, man, before we did our testimony.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yep.
That's
and it's like,
crazy.
no, I don't believe that was an accident. I don't believe that, that happened by accident. It's like, and again, you wonder why when I said I want asses and plates, I don't want money. Money, man,
Right.
Doesn't mean much to me.
Right.
But making sure that this doesn't happen to anybody else, making sure that they pay for what they're doing, yeah, it does mean a lot to me. Because I don't want anybody else to ever have to go through this. It was horrible. I'm not going to lie. Every bit of it was horrible, and it still is.
Right.
I mean, I'm still not free. I'm still, again, even getting called a murderer all the time, it gets real old after a while. I got thick skin, but it gets hard.
I can only imagine, because I can't imagine. I don't know.
Yeah,
how you
I couldn't either beforehand, right?
do
I
it
really
day
wish
in
I
and
didn't have
day
to.
out.
I
wish
wish I
you
didn't ever have to,
either.
but you know what? That's kind of the point. Is like, look, it's like I didn't ask for any of it. I didn't want it. I didn't want none of this. But at the same time, I don't want it for anybody else either, right? And
Right.
that's kind of the point. Is like, okay, maybe I do have to go through it, man, to make sure that other people don't. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but at the same time, I know it isn't about me anymore. It stopped being about me a long time ago. If I just wanted to go free, I mean, hell, that would have been easy.
You
In a
could have done
sense.
it. Yeah.
It's like, no, I mean, I definitely made it a point to make them hate me. That's for sure. Which maybe that's another thing people are picking up in these trials, because I did actually make it a point to make them hate me. So well, it's kind of like sports in that sense, right? It's like, why do you talk trash in sports? It's like, you do it, man, so you can kind of get them out of their game and, stuff like that. In Mansfield, oh, yeah, I mean, I ruffled. You can tell when I ruffled his feathers, because, man, he starts stuttering and he'd get Rory's name wrong and start calling him Corey. It's like, but I do kind of enjoy it with him, because I know I don't particularly like the man. I mean, I haven't liked him. Again, like what I said about Matt's trial, or not Matt's trial, but Rory's trial, where Matt, man, he said that about Matt. And it's like, there was no point to that. I couldn't even see the point. It's like, okay, it's one thing, putting your clothes, man, something nasty about me or something nasty about a particular witness or whatever, right? But, man, why would you put something nasty about the victim in there when you're the prosecutor? You're supposed to be representing the victim. That's the idea. At least,
Right.
As far as I understand. Apparently, because apparently I'm wrong about a lot of the, ideas I have about the law, because I remember Judge Jones telling me that that the investigation isn't on trial. And I'm like, okay, from my understanding, it's their word versus mine is basically what it is. And, man, so investigation is always on trial.
Absolutely.
And he was like, no, it's about the evidence. And I was like, okay.
Which is part of the investigation.
Not a lawyer, but I went to college. It's all about state your source, right? It's all about, where'd you get your information from? How did you get it? That's why there's rules for evidence. And, it's like, it's like, a lot of people didn't catch that whole part of it, right? When, I was debating this with the judge, and it's like, this is when he's telling me I can't go into the investigation, can't go into, the misconduct in it. Which that's part of the problem, because, okay, when I'm up there trying to maneuver these questions, right? I'm trying to maneuver them in a way where the judge isn't going to nuke them out. And still, because I have to go into the investigation if I'm going to defend myself at all, right? In a sense, because man, all the roads lead back to man what they did, and it's like, so trying to defend myself without it, it's kind of tough, right? I mean, because I still have to be able to, I still have to be able to discredit both Malone and Travis at that point, right? And Malone, man, that woman, I mean, of course, I'll tell you what, if they let me go into into what, the real deal is with her, oh man, I mean, yeah, that woman, I can't believe anybody. I looked at her on the stand, right? And I've known her for a while now because I've had to deal with this case. But the idea that that woman was allowed to be a homicide detective anywhere, anywhere in here, it's like, you got to be kidding me, right? This is a woman. I would imagine she has trouble learning how to tie her shoes. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but yet, man, she's a homicide detective in charge of investigating, crimes that affects people's lives.
Yep, exactly.
Right? And yeah, I can understand why. She says it was voluntary. Again, man, I've seen the reports and I've seen, man, the letters and stuff that I wasn't allowed to bring in. But
right.
But the thing is, yeah, they're out there. Well, we'll be discussing those too. It's like, man, it's like, that's another thing I really don't understand. Is because okay, there's a law against that in Florida as far as the cops when they do something wrong and man, when they're brought up for their prosecution, right? When you accuse a cop of misconduct or whatever, right? Goes to IA, Internal Affairs, man, they handle it, but you're not allowed to talk about it with anybody, right? That's against the law, right? So the thing is okay, why? It's not like that for individuals. It's not like that for any of us. You know what I'm saying? So why is it that a cop who comes up, man, on charges, you're not allowed to discuss it? It has to be all hush hush, man. Under because look, I'm definitely of the opinion that things done in the light is where they need to be, right? Granted, you can use that as a smear campaign. That's true, right? But okay, if you've done nothing wrong, which man, again, I've been going to the press the whole time, right? Because look, I know I didn't do anything wrong. There's nothing to smear me over. You can try, but one of the things I've noticed recently, and I really, like a lot, people like you, all these people, man, from crime, from the crime TV, court TV, law and crime, all that stuff, right? Who've been digging into this case. And some of them have found things that we missed, we actually did. And bringing on thousands of pairs of fresh eyes, to look at the case, right? They've actually found some things we didn't. But here's, the even, better aspect for me, right? We've had thousands of eyes going through all this evidence, tearing this case apart now, right? And then they all lead back to the same thing. I didn't do it. You know what I'm saying? Not a single person has come up with, man, anything that says I did anything, right? And I've said that, more than once, that there's a reason why there's no evidence, I know it. But man, but everybody else has to figure it out for themselves, right? But having these thousands of people tearing this case apart, and then they all still come back to the same conclusion. It's like, well, again, it does feel like vindication in some ways, that people are actually seeing what what I already know, but man, right. seeing it makes me feel pretty good.
Good.
Like, makes me feel like people are actually on my side.
Well, I can tell you my people are. I have to ask you this question because Gabby's going to explode if I don't.
Okay.
She's asked me like 6 times.
Let's see. Why was there no contact? Because he's a victim. Simple as that. Literally, there's a few. Matter of fact, almost everybody from the original, when it originally happened, there's a no contact order, and I actually do have to. I brought it up with the judge where I have to go ahead and have those modified. Because there's some other witnesses I want to talk to too. But we'll see. See what he wants to do. Judge Morgan, he's not going to do anything until April 4th. So.
Yeah, I liked him yesterday saying, "I'm going to figure this out first, and then we're going to do that."
Yeah.
I mean, he was just. I
like him a lot. I do. I like him a lot, and I like the fact that he wants to. Because he's a new judge, right? So he's really trying to do it by the rules, right? He's trying to follow the rules, and. I appreciate that. I really do.
Absolutely.
Because
It's
look, I'm so
refreshing.
sick of having to look at all the angles and look at where they're going to try and do this or try and do that. And it's just nice to even have a judge who was being polite. It was actually being nice and he was being polite. And I can
Right.
appreciate that too. It's so yeah, it has been a long haul, and I am tired. I'm not going to say I'm not. It's drained a lot out of me. The whole
Oh,
thing.
I
And
can imagine.
yeah, it's just how my wife, same thing. It's drained her a little bit too. So, but
Absolutely.
you get tired, and you get tired of
Absolutely.
the whole process actually. But yeah, I think we're in a good space now. We're actually we're at a point where people are actually listening.
I
So
think you are. You guys have made your case. You made your case before you were allowed to come out here and make your case to
yeah,
all of us. So,
yeah.
I mean, uh,
I
okay.
just got to be careful though, because man, I know a lot more than most people do, right? So actually,
Well, yeah.
but the thing is, so I mean, that was a weird one I got, man, with people when I was looking at some comments and stuff. People were making this. They thought, man, I did it because I know so much about the case. It's like I've had 6 years of digging into this thing. I know a lot about it. So it's like, yeah, I'm not exactly sure how that equated to my guilt, but man, but it was one of the comments that came up a few times.
Okay.
But
So,
anyway,
Gabby,
yeah, I'm more than happy to answer some more questions too, because I know you have subscribers with questions.
I do. Gabby's my main one. She told me she had a page and a half of questions this morning.
Okay,
I'm not going to do all those because
okay, counselor, hit me.
I have to get going too. So, ask him about the video on his YouTube page with
Oh,
Elitis.
Elides,
Elitis.
Elides Maldado. Actually, it's was it Jose Elides Maldado Gravera, something like that. He was okay. This guy, he's kind of he's from the neighborhood, right? And he had heard some things from actually Lonnie Ortiz, but Lonnie Ortiz, man, she doesn't come into play here. But Lonnie had heard from her nephew who had actually committed the crime. Right, cops never really talked to Lonnie, right? But Lonnie had was it Jose had this. It was a tape. It was in Spanish where he taped his conversation with Lonnie. Right, Lonnie was in prison, and she's saying that she knows who actually committed the crime. Right, and well, the cops never talked to her. It was nothing more than the same information they were getting from this other CI, the one the one that's in the affidavit. Okay, I know who that is too, but I'm not going to put his name out there just because, man, he is a
Yes.
confidential informant. But I caught something recently with that whole thing. When I was going back and doing doing this motion, because it goes back to that original affidavit. It goes back to some of the things in there. But picture goes because that's how I actually get pulled into the whole thing anyway. Because the CI actually goes to David Fernandez and David Smith, two detectives, right? CI stops them, says, "Okay, hey, I just saw Detroit leave Metro PCS with a white guy." Now they know they're looking for a white guy because of Todd O'Quinn, right? Todd O'Quinn, man, said the second suspect is white, right? So okay, they go in the Metro PCS behind me, and man, they get my information because I paid my phone bill because they asked the lady that, okay, there's a black dude in here with a white guy, anyway, so they pull up my phone, my information from my phone, right? That's also where they get the Facebook picture, is from those records. And anyway, so that one is, Detective Pitcher goes back and gets more information from that CI later, right? And here's what's in the report, but man, there's something left out of that report too. He says that, man, he shows the CI a picture of Rory Wilson, right, and has the CI positively identify Rory Wilson as Detroit, right, as what they know as Detroit, right, and but then that's all it says, right. Here's the part he left out, because he got the picture of Rory at the same time he got the picture of me, right. So damn well, man, he didn't just take Rory's picture down there and show it to the CI. He showed my picture of that CI too. What's
Right.
not in that report is, man, that CI did not say I was the white guy that was with Rory. You know what I'm saying? That's what's left out of the report. And I guarantee you that's what happened, because there's no way he just went down there with a picture of Rory and man just showed him the picture of Rory.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that was, for all y'all out there, as far as the legal ramifications of that, that's what's called a material omission. You know what I'm saying? That he's not telling that part of it because he doesn't want people to know that the CI didn't identify me as the white guy. Right? That's basically it. So, but I caught that man recently when I was going through and redoing, doing this whole motion to dismiss. It is a lot, but I'm learning a lot too. Don't get me wrong, because
I can tell you absolutely are.
well, you have to. I mean, it's like you got to go through all these, citations. So you got to go through all these different cases and see how how it applies to what you're putting in the motion, and because you got to be able to establish that that it's a viable defense, that's viable for this particular motion, or that I'm even bringing it the right way. Procedure does matter somewhat,
Right.
I mean, I get a little leeway for being a layman, but not tons,
Okay, so she wants to know the recording with Michelle. Do you know who Michelle is?
Yeah, that would be Lonnie.
Lonnie,
They call her
okay.
Lonnie, but that's Michelle.
And did you ever hear the recording with Michelle talking to Rory?
Yes, actually, we have
Lena?
a copy of it somewhere. It's in Spanish, but we do have a copy of it, and she's talking about how she was, she literally got the information from her nephew. We actually thought that was somebody's name at first. Sabrino is what she was saying, and man, that's actually Spanish for nephew, I guess. But we listened to the tape, and Lonnie was bringing, like I said, it's the same information that the other CI had, pretty much. I don't, except for you would have had to find out who the nephew is, but we couldn't talk to Lonnie really because she was in prison at that point, right? So, and it was like, okay, well, if she's giving up the same information as this CI who's local, might as well go to the CI who's local, then man, go to Lonnie who's in prison. So, and she was actually reporting hearsay from the nephew, so we would have had to figure out who the nephew is, so, and that became difficult too.
This one is from my daughter, so she
Let's see.
censored it for a word we cannot say.
Oh, time not to come on my mom's channel. Oh, thank you. No, actually, I said I thank your mom for having me, and actually, I thank your mom for actually. She's one of those people that there's been people who have impressed me a lot, and what it is people who started out hating me or started out not or thinking one thing, or they watched the trial, they listened, watched and saw the evidence and lack thereof or whatever, but kept an open mind enough to be able to change their minds. You know what I'm saying? And that is hard for people, in my experience. It's hard for people to do that. Once they get their mind set on something being one way, it's hard for them to look at it another way. And but your mom did that, and and by proxy, I ended up doing the same thing because like I said, my first comments to your mom were not as nice. It's like but that was the thing is but she came back at me and she told me, man, what she thought, and how she came to that conclusion, and and I was like, and I had to thank her for that because it's one of the few people, man, who actually have done that. I would imagine there's probably a lot of people out there who have. It's just that I've actually talked to, who've actually changed their their minds about different things, and and it's impressive, just on a human scale. That's impressive because most people don't. Most people, I mean, they get it in their head about something, and it has to be that way, and it's hard to change people's minds.
And I've really tried over, like I've told you guys, watching the trials. I had that attitude of if you're here, you're probably
Right.
guilty, and then
Right.
I've changed, and I try really, even if you look like
Yep.
everything is there, you're
I try hard
okay
not to do that
doing
too.
it,
Because
like
it's the experience, I've had to do it. It's like I know I was just as guilty as everybody else before of doing that. And I try and use famous people as an example. You see some famous person that gets busted for something. Oh, and you're immediately you're like, oh yeah, see, that's what's up. I knew that. And you start doing that, and it's like,
yeah,
and no, you shouldn't do that, right? You
yep,
really shouldn't, right? Because okay, you don't know what happened. You don't know, man. Any specifics. One of the ones is Bill Cosby. Very good example there. look, as soon as he got busted, man, there were memes all over the place, man, talking about, what he did, and they're talking about it as if he did it, he's guilty of this. And then it comes out he's not guilty, right? And, you hear crickets from people now,
Oh
nobody
yeah,
wants to
you're never
apologize,
gonna.
for
Yep.
what they said or anything like that. And that poor man, he went through, through all this stuff, and it turns out he's not guilty. And yeah, I mean, how many people had him pegged as guilty? I mean, and that's, there is a difference, though. I mean, I got to admit, there is a difference because we are a little jaded this way. Is, there's times when, man, you feel somebody's guilty and they got off, right? And they,
Yeah,
that they got off,
absolutely.
legally, they just got off,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
That's a little bit different, I mean, because there are people that I'm pretty sure were guilty and they walked,
Right.
but that's a decision you make for yourself. Just the whole they were arrested, they must be guilty thing, though. No, I try really hard
Yep.
not to do that. And I try really hard in my personal life. Like if I think somebody did something wrong or whatever, I think that, they did something, or like when I was in jail, somebody stole something from me or something like that, right? If I thought that somebody stole something, I'll go search my entire cell, go through all my stuff, make sure, and then go through, man, make sure that, man, okay, I narrow it down, because, man, I do not want to go accusing people of anything they didn't do, it's like, no, I want to make sure that when I accuse somebody, that's why, I said that to Mr. Mansfield. It's like, okay, differences between you and me is, man, when I accuse somebody, I have evidence. I'm not going to accuse anybody of anything unless I actually have evidence. Right. I'm not going to do what they did to me, so yeah, when I say Mansfield committed crimes, I'm not saying that lightly. I've done my homework, done my research, and, man, yes, I can say that, I can say that I can go ahead and accuse him of these things. And we'll have to see how that's handled. My wife, man, you saw she's a little more skeptical about what'll happen. And, rightfully so. I mean, how often do we see prosecutors ever get, look, I think there's only been one prosecutor who's ever actually faced criminal charges and actually been, arrested and thrown in jail over things that they did during a case. I think that was in Texas, if I remember
It
correctly.
doesn't happen. It just.
No, but I'll tell you what, we already, and this is where, maybe I need to remind her of, man, how many impossible things we've already achieved. But the thing is no, I mean, even the things that have happened in this case never happened. Okay, the captain already being fired, prior to trial. The first prosecutor, she was already lost her job and lost her license for a while over this case. And then, again, me going pro se and, man, beating, the prosecution, man, again, never happens either,
Right.
or beating the dirty judge. That, again, so far we beat a cop, dirty cop, and then the other ones, man, they've already, was it 4 out of the 4 investigators, main investigators, there's only one that's still a cop, right? Most of the time, even if a person's convicted, and they find out later that it was the cops or the prosecutor, they never even lose their jobs. That's normally what happens. And, man, we've had people losing their jobs before I even make it to trial, so it's like, maybe that makes me more hopeful. I don't know. Maybe that makes me unrealistic. I don't know. But, man, I just know that, look, I know we're right. And I know that, man, what these people did is wrong. And I know they should pay for what they did, because it does affect the next person. Same thing with taking the plea deal. It's like, if I take that plea, first off, I'm thumbing my nose, literally thumbing my nose at, man, every cop that, man, actually did come on our side, because they're not going to want to help the next person. Right, because we did have cops testify on my behalf, just to put that out there. Not all cops are bad, not even down there.
I don't. Right. I don't. I don't think that.
I'm not
either.
trying to say that. I'm not trying to say that at all. Matter of fact, I really like cops that do their job, and, man, it's a hard job to do. It's not easy, especially in an environment like they have down there, right, where you've got the people at the top who are not, doing right things, making right choices. That makes it even more difficult for them. Right, because now, to be a good cop in that atmosphere is not easy.
Right.
But we've had ones that were bold enough to come up and testify on my side. And that, no, I'm not going to thumb my nose at them, and I'm not going to thumb my nose at all the other people out there. Or the next guy in the line, because if I take that plea deal, all it does is justify it for them. it literally makes it so they're just going to keep on doing it to other people, right? So I can't do it.
Yeah.
That's it. So
All right.
yeah.
I got to get to bed. 4 o'clock comes really early for
Oh
me.
yeah,
So.
and you know what? I
But
really do need to get back to work, but it was like I came straight from the UA, and it's like.
I
But
appreciate
it was really good to talk to you, and I
you
appreciate you
too.
having me on the show. And it's like, and yeah,
I
like I
appreciate
said,
you coming on the show because honestly, after your comment, I thought, well, I'm gonna comment back and I think I checked for 3 days and I thought, ah, he's never coming back. And then it was it was
well, it takes
actually
me a second because I don't have
it was
much time to be looking at
I
those
know,
things.
but it was actually Carmen was like, "Do you know that you got a reply?" And I said, "No, I quit checking." And I think it was the next day. And then I just because I had my notifications for me, if I get a comment, I had to turn them off because
Yep.
it just became very overwhelming for me. Um,
Tell me about it.
I can
My
imagine
phone is
you
constantly
know
dinging.
that.
It's
I
constantly
yeah,
dinging.
I
It's
can't
like
do it.
and I haven't learned how to manage that quite yet. I'm trying, I really do. But I try to deal with everybody individually, right?
Right.
Because it's just the way I feel. Like if these people took time to write to me, and they're trying to help me and trying to support me, and it's like, I figure the least I can do is try and tell them thank you, personally, right? But it's getting really hard. It's actually getting really hard because I keep on having more and more of them, coming,
Yep.
and sending me messages, and it's like, and I really do want to thank all of them, right? It's because like, I really appreciate the time they took, right? And so what I'm going to end up doing is I don't know if I messaged you this, but on Fridays I'm going to start doing like a video on YouTube or whatever, do like a live feed, and that way I can let everybody know what's going on, where the case is at, what's been going on as far as I'm going, because a lot of them, man, they actually it's funny because they check on me just to make sure I'm okay,
Right. Right.
and it's like all of a sudden I've gained like a couple thousand mothers, making sure I'm all right all the time, I'm eating right, I'm sleeping, and
Are you
all
getting
that
enough
stuff.
sleep?
But I
No,
do appreciate it.
I get
It's
it. I
it
get
is
it.
kind of cool.
Yeah, it
Um,
is, and it can get overwhelming. And
yeah.
uh, for me, I had the trial right before yours.
Uh huh.
I had 28 subscribers when I did
Right.
that trial. I did it at Christmas time.
Right.
It was a fluke thing that I did. I was
Right.
it was right before Christmas. I'm literally not talking to anybody except me, and then I think towards the very end of it, I had, like, one of my original subscribers come in, and she said, "I didn't wanna watch this trial because it's bad." And
Right.
it was bad. It was a mom and a brother who starved a
Oh
15-year-old.
yeah, no, I
It
saw parts of that, and that is horrible.
well,
That was a horrible case.
I was the only one that had, like, day 2, and it
Right.
was the 2nd live trial I had ever done. It's awful.
No, it
It's
is. No,
awful.
it is.
No, I mean, my cover like, I was
Yeah.
by myself just talking to myself for a few days,
Oh, okay, got
just
you.
like
Oh, I got
and
you.
then some people were like, "Oh, I really loved it," and then you get 1 comment out of 100 and it's
Right.
bad, and then that's the one that would get in my head.
Right.
So your trial was the very next trial that I did, and all these people that are over here now, except for Carmen, that we're all kinda cutting up and laughing, I'd never seen them before.
Right.
I didn't know what to do. I'm like, "Are you guys friends? Are you foes? Are you here to cut me to the like, what are you?" So
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out my footing, and
So
you just
we're both
happen
in a
to
kind of
be
very
there.
similar. We're in a very similar spot here, because man,
Yes,
look, I'm still trying to figure things out too. It's like, like I said, the trial that was, you know, look, that it's not what I wanted to do. It's not what I planned, you know, but it's just I did the best I could. You know what I'm saying for the time, right? And I'm figuring out my footing now as far as moving forward, and we'll see how it goes. But in a very similar situation that way. It's like
yes,
you're kind of feeling your way around.
I was, and you just happened to be the person that was there that I was trying to navigate through, and so I'm like, "Ugh, this is" I mean, I was just like, "This is horrible,"
It
but
is
I've
amazing how
learned.
those negative comments, though, some of them can stick in your head.
Absolutely,
You
that's why
know,
I just turned everything off, so
yeah,
I don't have very many negative, but it doesn't matter because if I look at them,
Yep.
they
Well, I
just
got
live
lots
in
of
my
them.
brain.
I
Oh, I
got
know
lots
you
of them.
do,
But it
and I'm
depends
not
on it depends.
comparing.
It really does, and man, much like you, it's like sometimes I don't look at where they were at in the trial. You know what I'm saying? It's like because it does matter actually, because a lot
Mhm.
of people and I knew this going in. I was like, I knew I was not going to be well liked going in, right? I didn't quite realize how much I was going to be hated, but but at the same time, I knew I was not going to be well liked, right? Because like I said, everybody's already going to assume you're guilty, and apparently they kept on. I never really looked at Daryl Brooks's trial. I saw a
Oh
little
gosh.
clip of it one time, and man, but he kept coming up in all these, all these conversations people were having. It's like, oh, it's going to be another Daryl Brooks, man. I can't
That's
wait to
what I
watch this
thought.
crash
Yep.
and burn and all this other stuff. And it's like, and I mean, it's like, okay, I've never seen the guy. I didn't know anything about him. I didn't know what they were talking about.
I watched that
But,
whole thing.
yeah, but I watched the little part, man. I saw a clip of him where he had like this mountain of files, man, in front of him, and it's like, I'm like, oh no, no,
Oh, the
no.
box sport. Yes, because he
No.
got kicked out of the courtroom. Okay, I have one more question because Carmen's about to
Okay,
explode
yeah, I'm
now.
sorry. I don't mean to keep you.
No, you're fine. I just got to go back and find it. Okay, so she said, ask him, does he need anything? Like anything we can do?
Oh no, actually, I mean, people are doing actually, they're doing actually everything they can to help me by just man watching and looking and man, keeping informed, keeping it. Look, having like I said, all these people looking at the case and actually, seeing what's going on. That that's what I need. I need people, man, to not let this go, not let it slide. Don't let it slide back up under the cracks. When they put that gag on us, it literally did kill the momentum as far as that went. We had people who were looking at it, not the right people, unfortunately, because man, that was when it was coming out like the New York Post, and it was coming out in the New York Times, and it was coming out Inside Edition, stuff like that, right? Daily Mail, but it was all mostly it was over the romance between me and Lauren, right?
Yep.
And they weren't really looking at the case, whereas these people now, the people who are looking at it now, they're more interested in the case, than the, I mean, the romance, that's still there, but it's more about the case now. And
Right.
actually, I got somebody at my door, so I got to go answer the
Yep.
door.
Thank
Um,
you.
but
Thank
thank
you very
you,
much.
and I appreciate it.
You got to come
And
back on when everything's over.
look, anytime, all you got to do is hit me up.
All
Okay.
right. Perfect.
All
All
right.
right.
Talk
Have
to you
a good
later.
night. All right.
Bye.
Bye.
And let's go.
All righty, guys. I'm also going because it's 10:30, and unless I'm calling all of you at 4, except Carmen because she'll be up, uh, I'm going to bed. I see Gabby trying to get your social. You're an adult. You know how to do it. That's all I can tell you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I'm so sorry that I didn't get more of your comments up tonight, but thank you for hanging out. And regular time tomorrow, we're going to go and do. Dare, you're still here. I figured you were long gone. Uh, well, good. I still have 4. So, uh, we're gonna do the what I tell you that guy's name was Jose Ruiz. We're gonna go to that, and we will finish up the Haley Brown hearing trial. Um, but I want to. Man, my nose gets so shiny this time. Uh, I do want to go to that trial because I think you guys are going to at least enjoy the opening statement. Um, because that's what I didn't watch any further because it was that was crazy enough. And so sad trial again because it's a child and um oh. But we're going to do that. Carmen, I don't know how many more hints you can give Gabby. I am a pretty patient person, Adair. I will pat myself on the back for that one. Uh but yeah. So, all right. I'm going to go, guys. You guys do whatever you're doing over here. But I got to go to bed. And I have to go figure out why my dogs were barking so much a while ago. Make sure that, you know, I'm not going to be the next person on trial for something because I don't want to. Oh my gosh. All right, Carmen, I'm out because that needs to go. You take that down. Can I take that down? All right. See you guys all tomorrow.